Hello, hello. Please let us know in the chat if you can hear us.
I want to close that door. It's distracting.
Yeah, 1 second.
One of the kids wakes up and starts crying.
All right, please let us know. Can you hear us or not? We're new to this.
There's a few thumbs up, and there's some thumbs up coming in.
Okay.
So I'm guessing it's being successful.
Okay. All right. So you guys can. Where did you see the thumbs up? Sorry, I am very new at this, so I'm like trying to figure this out. Okay, we have somebody saying hello.
All right.
They can't see you, honey.
It's okay. It's okay. You look better than I do. Anyway.
There we go. All right. So we have. So can you hear us? All right. Thumbs up. I think that means that they can.
There's.
Okay. All right. Sorry that we're late in starting the live stream. We are in the middle of. You could explain.
Yes, so yeah, we're in the middle of life has been a little crazy lately. We're coming up at the end of our contracts on our apartments where we moved when we first got here, and we decided we're looking to do a different apartment, which for any non-Russian viewers out there, you have to get registration for where you live, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt if you're if you're a foreigner. Like, I think most people who are from Russia, they just register wherever wherever the house they lived in with their folks when they were born, and it's not as big a deal. But if you're a foreigner, if you go and live somewhere, your landlord has to register you as living there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like, it's not that big a deal, but a lot of people just never done it. So it's kind of just scary to think, oh man, we got to go to the equivalent of the DMV, fill out all this stuff that they live here, blah, blah, blah. And so a lot of people don't want to touch that. So we were kind of hesitant to even look, but we're also kind of, with the newest kid, kind of wanting to get a place that's a little bit bigger. So
bit tight for four children, 6 people.
So
bit tight.
Good Lord willing, it might be working out because we actually found a place like right away. It's the same number of rooms, but it's actually a lot more floor space. So the bedrooms are bigger and the kitchen's bigger, and the person's willing to do registration. So
yeah, you guys can be in prayer that all works out, and if that doesn't work out, something else does. But anyway, that's why we're late. We were dealing with all of that. So
we've been comfortable here, but it still would be a massive upgrade with the 4 children to have a bit more space.
For sure.
That and the playground is like even closer. We don't have to walk the 100 yards. We can walk the 5 yards out the back door of this place.
Yeah. So hello from Nigeria. Hello. Nice to see you. Nice to see you too. Will you eat potato and mushroom pies?
Well, okay. That the pierogi, like, I don't know if you call these pies or not, but
if you're talking pierogi, yes, we love them. We love them.
Yeah, when she first had the baby, like, there's an older woman who's in our church who's sort of become our kid's adopted grandmother, and so she would show up all the time or call me on Monday and be like, okay, meet me at Globus, this big shopping center, like grocery store. Here, I don't know if you had to make the description, like, Ashan feels a bit more like Walmart or mixed with a bit of a Sam's Club. And then Globus is a bit more like Target. It feels a little just like the decor. It's more like vibe, but they're big shopping anyway. But she would call me and say, okay, let's go there. And then she'd always be going down to the pierogi and be like, you need to get this for Beth. You need to get this. So we'd always keep her well supplied with the potato and mushroom ones. These sort of like, how do you describe them for non-Rush? What are they? To me, they're pierogi. What are they? How would you describe them? Like a bun with
a bun. Think of like a bun.
They're not sweet, but it's like a bun with meat or potatoes.
Yeah, inside of it, meat or potatoes inside of it.
Yeah, so.
Hello, my friend. It's good to see you. It's good to see you, Lisa. So, yeah. So, oh yeah, 1 second.
I go on both the computers. That's my bad.
So, what's your favorite place in Moscow?
Oh,
you can start with that, and then I'll share.
Oh, you go ahead.
I'm not sure yet, so you go ahead.
Well, Red Square, of course. I'm just kidding. I do like Red Square. Red Square is pretty, but I don't like.
I do too.
On Red Square as much. Like there's like this path and this like sort of scenic walkway that kind of goes along the outside of it. I really like. But there's also like okay, there's that's the stereotypical place. But then there's a lot of other spots around. There's a in Russian it's female monastery. I got nunnery, I guess. There's a place that's in the center. Oh, it's Matrona. It's a church. It's a very beautiful church in there. We have different friends who really love going there, so I've gotten invited to go along with them at different times. We each have this older woman in our church that's taken me and one of the kids, and then she's taken Beth, and one of the kids just kind of cycles back and forth on which one of us to ask to bring along a kid. And it's a peaceful place there, depending on the time of day. Sometimes there's a massive line of people going to see it. For me as well, we live on the north end of Moscow. So if I get up early or something and can get away without the kids, being crazy, which is not typical.
No, it's not.
The way that Moscow's laid out for our non-Muscovite people, there's a big, ginormous highway that's basically a giant ring around the outer rim of Moscow. And kind of like you go past that highway, you sort of start to get outside the city limits in certain areas. And we live on the far northern part of it, so we're not far from there. So I can take a decent amount of a hike and actually cross that ring. And there's actually some areas where you hit some parks and all that feel almost as though you're just completely outside of the city area. So there is an area up there. That's why I'm actually looking on my phone because I can't remember for the life of me. There is a statue of Nikolai II there in this little park, and then there's a church, Blagoveshchenskaya Tserkov, Church of the Annunciation of Our Lady. This area up there, it's near this area called, my goodness, I'm not doing well with my places right now. It's been a long day. We've been running around with this apartment thing.
With all 4 children with us. With all 4 children with us. We did have some help. Though, but it was still a lot.
Yeah, there's this area outside of the city. It's called Matish, and there's some like parks, rivers, and all that kind of go up in there. So I'll hike up in there. I love that area up there because I actually feel like I'm outside the city. I grew up in the country, so it's kind of nice to.
Oh, you're making them for our next meeting. Yes, please do. I would love to eat them. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see that message for a while, so now I see it.
Your favorite place in Moscow?
Oh, my favorite place.
I took the obvious one with Red Square. I stole it from you.
It's hard, but probably our Khram. I really like going there.
That's like local Orthodox church.
Yeah, our local Orthodox church. I really like our local Orthodox church. It's really beautiful, and also just like it's got a big garden. It's got parks all around it. It's just a very peaceful, good place to go and pray and hang out. So I would say that might be my favorite place. I also really like Red Square, so I enjoy going there as well. I haven't been to as many places as I would like to be, so that may change in the future. But currently, I would say that's my favorite.
We need to get a video of you going to the Ismailovsky Kreml. Because you took some pictures out there. That looks like because we need to get it before summer's over and we haven't made it over there.
That's true.
Yeah. So, anything else? Well, we have this. We also have this ginormous park that's really only a few miles from us. It's one of the biggest parks in Europe, and where we live up on the north side, this park is so big. If you imagine Moscow sort of like a pizza or something, it's sort of shaped like a pizza slice. It's kind of wider on the outside and kind of narrows down.
Yeah.
And it cuts into the city limits, but also kind of expands outside. It's so big that like in the wintertime, I've had a friend of mine said I've seen like moose in there and all the wintertime. It's huge. And so Where we live, it is also kind of doable to just hop a bus in about 10 minutes. You can kind of drop off somewhere not near from there. So that's also a nice place to just go because it's so huge. Like there's paths that are more paved and kept up, and it's just big enough that you can kind of just head off and find a footpath where people or animals have just gone through and just kind of wander because it's what 4 or 5 miles, like 5 miles across on one side and wider in another direction. It's humongous. And a lot of it's just forest.
Yeah. We really love that. We really love that park. Yeah. It's nice. One thing I like about Moscow is the fact that it's like, well, at least if you live on the outskirts, it's very, very green, which is important because we've lived in the countryside a lot, and so going from countryside to extremely large city can be a bit difficult, but Moscow's very green, so that helps a lot. We have some other questions coming in. How are your kids? How is Alicia? Kids are doing well.
Alicia is like the most engaged of all the ones we've had.
Oh yes, and
most precocious.
Most precocious. Like she has so much personality. Like, for example, the other day, she loves stuffed animals. I already know this about her, and she's 5 months old. None of our other kids really like stuffed animals at an early age.
It's hard to tell at 5 months old.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell. But with her, she has so much personality that when you show her something she likes, she'll like extend her arms out like that and kind of like wave them around. And and then grab it like that, just like both hands together and just grab the thing you're holding in front of her. And so we just tried her on solids, like purees, like recently, yesterday. And
it's impossible because her little hands are grabbing.
Her little hands were just like grabbing. I had to hold her hands down. She liked it so much. But yeah, so I showed her this stuffed animal. Actually, I didn't. It was
Walter, didn't it?
No, it was our Moscow grandmother.
Oh,
our Moscow grandmother, who doesn't want to share her name. But so she showed the dog, this like toy dog to the stuffed toy dog to Alicia, and she just grabbed it, and that was her thing.
But yeah, ridiculous amounts. She's just very precocious.
Very precocious.
Nastia was very chill. Alicia is like the polar opposite. Our last one was just like laid back, chill about everyone. Like Alicia is very good natured. She smiles a lot. It's very happy, but she's not chill. She's the absolute opposite.
She's always going. Yeah. And the other kids are doing well. We have to start potty training Mary soon, which is going to be fun. And by that I mean it will not. But Walter's all done with that. But Mary, I still have to figure out how to potty train a girl. I know how to potty train a boy. I had to have to figure out how to potty train a girl. So that's going to be fun. But they're doing well otherwise. Have you seen anything like carjacking, phone theft, or burglary, or people looking scary? So you take that.
No, like here in Moscow, like for example, I'm trying to think. We lived on the edges of Philadelphia. We've lived in Columbus, Ohio. I was in upstate New York for a while, so not really New York City. I'd pass through New York City if I went somewhere.
Yeah.
I've been around quite a bit in the US, I guess. But and then we were on the edge of Charlotte most recently. So I would say most like Moscow compared to at least most of the bigger US cities I've been in feels much safer on average. Like very, very safe. Now I get that there's other Russian cities, it's a big country, right? It depends on the place. I remember I was in Kazan way back when, and it felt pretty much the same. And Kazan's not Moscow, it's or St. Petersburg. It's it's not a small city, but still not humongous like those. It also felt the same. So most of my experience with Russian city life has been pretty strong sense of law and order. Things are pretty safe. There are a few areas that are sketchier than others. There's a couple of regions here in Moscow that are kind of known as a little bit less safe, but we're not talking like, for example, we lived in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's this city, just kind of a satellite outside of Charlotte.
Yeah, south of it.
70,000 people or something. You're not talking a big city, but there was a massive homeless issue. There were areas where it's kind of like, I'm not going there unless I'm just driving through my car. I'm not, no way I'm walking through
there. And you make sure you lock your car doors, that type of thing, as you're driving.
So that was South Carolina, in a smaller city. And I would say here in Moscow, there are fewer places on average, like far fewer places. I took the wrong. No, we both were on the wrong metro stop one time and ended up in the middle of the area. One of these areas that's kind of a little bit more well known in Lubertsy and all that, and ended up having to walk down there a ways. We were going to church, I think, so we were dressed up too, and it wasn't like we got mugged or anything or had any issues. So it's not. It's. I feel much safer on average than I would have anywhere in like Philadelphia by far.
Yes, that's for
Columbus, sure. Yeah. So by and large, no, not at all. I will say the one exception is like it never affects me, but like teenage boys get into more fights here, and this is in the sense that it's not like such a big deal. It's just you'll see some high school kids hanging around starting. I've had like multiple times where I'll just sit here like I'm listening to the voices start to pick up, and it's just I'm out and about a lot with work. I'm just going places all the time, so it's just kind of it's on the averages of how many people I see. But I have had a couple of different times, or it's just like it's maybe it's just dumb luck, but the 2 or 3 times I've seen it still felt a bit more often than I've seen it in the U.S., where it's just like teenage boys will throw down, their friends kind of back up, they line off, they throw a few punches till one of them kind of gets snagged on the nose or something, and caught on the chin, and he's kind of okay, and then they stop. So that has been funny. I don't know if this is a little bit more of a just. But it hasn't felt in any way out of control. It's felt a little more organized. It's like they get mad, they line up, they do a few, throw a few, and it's fine, Anyway, let's see. Privyet is Nikolaeva. Hello to you as well. Warm regards from Medvedka. Nice. Someone else from Medvedkova. Yeah, we're in that's our general region, Medvedkova, way up on the north. So it's a very nice region. So if you're coming into Moscow, like very green up here. I don't know, like no shade against anyone in the southern parts of Moscow, but when I go down there, it might be me. It just doesn't feel quite as green. Like I feel as though up here in the northern part of Moscow, we have like a ridiculous like park to resident ratio or something like that. So that makes this area very, very nice. There is a trail that actually goes, it's from the center of Moscow. I think it's from the center. I gotta check. I think it's like not far from Red Square. I know it's in the center, and generally speaking, but it goes sort of from the middle and goes 120 kilometers, more or less due north, all the way outside of Moscow to this famous monastery. And so a lot of like, I think you get kind of a mixture. Some Orthodox people will walk this trail as sort of a little pilgrimage, I guess you'd say. And then you get other people who do it more as sort of a hiking tour. It can take like 4 or 5 days, depending. But that goes kind of like straight in the middle, cuts straight up through the north side, and follows a lot of the parks and all that go right by our area and all. So I actually want to try and do that at some point. There's a friend I've got here who I'm trying to convince that we should make it like an ongoing like weekend project. We'll get together, go do like 10 kilometers of it, and then circle back the next week and catch the next. Haven't gotten to go ahead on that yet. So I'll convince him. Anyway.
So yeah, warm regards from Medvedkova, Moscow. Warm regards back. Came here from Ruski Put channel. Welcome. We're happy to have you here. That was a fun interview. They were awesome. They did it. They were great people, and so we enjoyed that interview.
This was the cameraman. Walter. Yeah, there's one of the guys from there, like Art's son, just like thought he was the most fun
Thought he
person
was the
ever.
most
So we
awesome
ended up
person
having
ever.
some pictures of the cameraman playing with our with
Yeah.
Walter because
They were great with our kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
All our interviews.
He was definitely a parent. He was like very
Very much.
wired to take care of.
Very
So,
much.
yeah.
Yeah, we've enjoyed our interviews. So like, but that one especially was a memorable
Yeah, they
one.
did.
Awesome people. All of our interviews have had really good people, but that was a memorable one. By the way, if I am hopping in and out, please excuse me. I'm in the middle of making soup, so that I didn't time that very well. Just with visiting the apartment and all of that, just kind of through the schedule. Can you walk along the Yauza Park from Medvedkova to Veda and Kha? It's very beautiful.
It wasn't a question. She said you can walk.
You can. Sorry.
Yes. So Yauza Park from where we live is not that far. And so yeah, I love that along there. So even the place I mentioned I like going that's out it's kind of outside the city limits. It's up near Metisha and all that. I'll actually just go across until I hit the Yauza Park and then like follow it under the bridge, under the giant highway that circles Moscow and just go on up there if I ever get the chance, which with the kids is not often. But yeah, Yauza then going on south there. So Yauza is this little river that comes, I think it starts sort of in some of the wetlands up around like Lasini Ostrov, and it kind of comes down until I think it empties into the Moskva river. But there's sort of like this ongoing long park all along here. So this long thin park that just kind of goes parallel, kind of on both sides of this little river, and it is very beautiful because it goes quite a ways. It's not that far from us. So actually, one of the interview we had with RT when they wanted to film just us out with the kids on the playground. That was actually one of the playgrounds along the Yauza Park because there'll be like playgrounds, exercise places, just sporadically along there.
I'm gonna. Have you tried pelmeni or dumplings yet? Yes, they are one of our children's favorite meals. I buy like a bag or two and I cook it up for the kids and they absolutely love it.
We have had better ones, but so like our children love them so much, and since children don't know the difference, she'll go to like Peterchka, which is for the non-Russian viewers, a little store that's sort of like on every corner, a little grocery store. It's not like fancy; it's just everywhere. It's sort of kind of like I don't know, Dollar General in the South. It's just everywhere.
Yeah.
And she'll go get their brand. It's sort of like how in Walmart you have the Walmart brand. They've got their brand, Krasnets, and like
and I know
sticker.
That's a low quality brand, but kids
yeah,
can't tell.
she'll go get it. It's basically so cheap. You can get it, and the kids love it. And so even their not so good Russian yet, or not so good English because they're still learning to speak either. And you'll still get this pelmeni,
please can we have pelmeni? It's what they'll
yes,
say.
it's like their
bad imitation
favorite meal.
Of Walter.
Yes.
But yeah, they love it. They absolutely love it, and it's so easy to feed them. That. So yeah, they. I have tried actual good ones before, and we like them. I really like them, at least, especially the potato ones. I really like potato ones. The only issue is the only issue is they don't have protein, so it's like I always have to figure out a protein to go
some of them have meat.
Well, I mean the potato ones.
Oh yeah, okay, fine.
So
sorry.
That's my only issue with the potato one.
Yeah.
How long you live in Russia?
Let's see. We got here in October.
So
we got in like 10 months.
10 months. Which is hard to believe. I cannot. It feels like a few months ago that we got here, not 10 months ago. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, I know. Because we were here. When we were here back in 2020, we were here 6 or 7 months. So a few months. We spent a year and a half in Moscow.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Time flies.
It really does. It really does. What's your least favorite place in Moscow?
Oh.
Lubitsy.
I didn't spend that much time there. It's just like a stereotype.
For me, I didn't like that area of Moscow when I was there
nice,
one time.
But it's still okay. I'm trying to think. Like, that's a good question.
It really is a very good question. Thank you.
Like, I won't lie. This is just it's got nothing to do with the area being bad. But I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember which metro it is. Like, has nothing to do with the area being bad. Like, I have no issue with the area. It's pretty up there. I wouldn't mind living up there. But with my English teaching and all, I have some lessons up at it's like Mitina area. Mitino or Mitino?
I think Mitina.
Like,
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we got that right.
At the very end of the blue line, up in the sort of the northwest sort of area of Moscow, and every time I have to get up there, it's always a pain because whenever I have to get up there, it's just all the way out on the edge. I just can never get. I always then have to get a bus to go further out, so I'm basically outside of Moscow. It's got nothing to do with the area. It's just that it's so remote.
So hard
every
to
time
get to.
there. And so with where we live, with kind of how Moscow is, a lot of the metro lines are almost kind of like wheel spokes going outwards. Mm-hmm. So ironically, it's not even that. Sorry, if we're here, it's here. It's not that far away, but I have to go down to the middle, go all the way back out, then take a bus to go further out. And so I kind of hate trying to get anywhere in sort of like the northwest part of Moscow because it always takes me so long to get to the middle, then get back out there. And some of these places I have to go to, then take another bus. It's so frustrating. I can't stand it.
It's Mitin. It's Mitina.
Mitina. Okay.
Thank you very much. Mitina. Yeah, that makes sense. I haven't ever been there, but that makes sense that you would not like that because.
What about your least favorite place?
Well, like I said, Lubin-Soup. I wasn't kidding.
Okay, fine.
I didn't like it. I mean, it was also felt weirdly. No offense to anyone who grew up in Odessa, it did feel like Odessa, which was weird because, like, on the one hand, I love Odessa, so that's not a bad thing. But on the other hand, Odessa was very run down, and Moscow, generally speaking, is not. So my impression being there was I'm in a place I shouldn't be. So I that was one reason I just didn't like it. I didn't feel very comfortable. Someone asked, Can you speak a couple of minutes together in Russian?
What about? Is there a topic? Is there something?
Is there a topic you guys would like us to speak about in Russian?
Put us on the spot here.
By the way, you both look like Russians. Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's from my mom's side of the family.
Yeah, Andrew's mom has Swedish.
That's what everyone blames it on. They say Scandinavian people look like Slavic.
I'm not sure where it comes on my side because I'm just all like Dutch and German. That's all my background is, Dutch and German. So Dutch, German, Swiss, not Slavic at all. So not even close.
At least you didn't get red hair, though. That would have really made you not look very particularly Russian. I mean, I guess there's people from like the Urals who are sometimes
redheaded. There are some Russian redheads.
Yeah, I mean it happens, but it's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It definitely not.
So yeah, if someone gives us a good topic to talk about in Russian, like ask us a question you want us to answer in Russian, we'll do our best.
It'll be embarrassing.
It'll be embarrassing, but we'll do our best. Are you in contact with your parents, and are they helping you?
Yeah, so like, мои как родители, да, в общем, мы, у нас как близкие связи, да. Как это всегда сложно сейчас, есть, сейчас ночью здесь, утром там, днем, да. Но да, это не каждый день. Через несколько дней, да. Да, они, в общем, поддерживали нас много, да. Потому что,
да, наш выбор был трудно для них, но...
да, у нас было как большинство внуков с нами.
Да.
Потому что мои сестры...
Но они поддерживали все равно.
Да. Я еще хочу заставить их переехать сюда, но, возможно, не получится. Они уже как пожилые. Да, и моя мама чуть-чуть боится, ну, как
Летать.
летать, да, да, как над, как океан и все это, да, океаном, да. Поэтому, ну, знаю, не знаю, я стараюсь сейчас чуть-чуть уговаривать, ну, знаю.
We have a visitor.
Oh, yes, she was sleeping and then woke up and is now complaining a little bit. Boy, hey.
Alicia, it's everyone. Everyone, it's Alicia.
Dull.
Yeah, she is. She is my. I like to call her my little sunshine. She's a little ray of sun. She's a baby, so she still cries sometimes, but she smiles a lot. Have you been in other cities in Russia?
Oh, we've had the worst luck with that because, like, when we were in Moscow, 5 years ago, so I got to travel. We got to travel a little bit more then.
Yeah.
But and then COVID happened though, so even that time, like, we had the whole list of places to go. We haven't even been to St. Petersburg yet. We didn't manage to get there last time.
No.
And so last time we were here, COVID happened and kind of shut us down, so we didn't get around as much as we wanted to then. And now this time, just with the kids, it's you are distracting. You know that. With the kids, it's definitely been a lot more challenging because, like, when we got here this time, she was pregnant, and then on top of that, like, with the initial registration, we didn't really want to go anywhere until we got our residency permit because I didn't want to go to a hotel or something, have them register us, and then our landlady's got to register us again and is going to be annoyed at that or something. And so we didn't go around that much. And then we have the newborn now, so most of our travel around Moscow has just been, like, just outside of Moscow, places like Istra and they're just nearby. Hopefully we'll be able to do a bit more. I'm hoping to we have a friend in Kazakhstan who's needing some help with some stuff with, like, moving and all coming up, and I had the sudden realization that I could get a ticket that I could literally run over and help. A ticket to Kazakhstan was like 6,000 rubles or something like that.
Oh man,
it was something ridiculous. That was assuming you didn't take any luggage or something. So we're gonna get to it. It's just we've been very grounded on this go around with the kids since getting the documents, pregnant, newborn. So as soon as it calms down a little bit, we're hoping to get out a bit more on this.
Yeah, we really want to make sure that we can. I think the next city would probably be St. Petersburg, but we'll see.
That'll be hard with the kids, but
that would be hard.
But still, we need to pop over to, like, Nizhny Novgorod.
Nizhny Novgorod, we definitely need to go see. We've heard a lot about that city. So,
was gonna go to I was supposed to run over to Rostov or something, and then that fell through. So even when we have been about to go places, it keeps falling through. So, but TBD, it's coming. We're getting to it. It's coming. We just gotta get life settled down.
Yes, gotta get life settled down. But wake up. Do you ever buy medicinal/culinary herbs there? Do doctors there ever use herbs or just pharmaceuticals?
That's more of a you question.
I'm actually not exactly sure because people.
I know a lot of people who are into herbs and stuff.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who are into herbs.
It's you can definitely do it because I know way too many people who know about that. I don't know about in the pharmacy. You've been more often with stuff.
Yeah, but the pharmacy
likes you, so you spend more time there.
Yeah, but I haven't really explored all that much. So, actually, could you guys in the chat answer that question? Because I'm not really sure the answer. Because I tend to stick to things. I tend to use very simple remedies for things. I'm not very creative with that. So
And I have no idea what Zelia is, or no, Zelionka, not Zelia.
I do
Zelionka is made of. I have no idea what that's made out of. So
I'll be honest, I have no idea either, but it works. So
there's kind of a cure-all, like what for anything like skin related, like burns,
bug
scratches, bug
bites.
Zelionka. That is like a go-to here called Zelionka, and that's like for Zeliony means green. And so Zelionka is this like very green stuff. You put it on everything, it stains your skin, but it works well. Like
it does.
Like our Mary, our second, is so susceptible. She gets a mosquito bite, it causes like a big swelling place. Like
so
Walter,
summer has
no problem.
Been rough for her. Summer's been difficult.
You put that on there, and the stain lasts for forever on the skin, but the bite goes away right away. So
yeah, it helps a lot. It helps a lot. So please answer that question in the comments. Or correct me in the comments if I got something wrong. So I'm also the father of a little girl. My daughter is 1 year and 3 months old. While she's sleeping, I'm watching your live stream. Glad that you can do that. Welcome.
Yeah, someone said on here you can buy natural supplements and herbal, and most aptekas. Yeah, that's been my impression. I haven't paid that much attention because normally if I go in there, I'm just going to grab the thing and I ask the lady, she gives it. But when I've looked around, I felt like my instinct has been I've seen that kind of stuff.
I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, my impression is that compared to the U.S., Russians have a very good knowledge of, okay, if you're fighting a cold, then you need to do this, 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 and this. Whereas in the U.S., it's like, if you're fighting a cold, you hope you don't get sick.
Well, like, there's definitely a very, like, strong, like, not folk remedies, but sort of just like the general knowledge, general wisdom that everyone will say on what to do for this situation, that situation. I do feel like there's a more definite culture of that, which I mean, I grew up in the country in the South when I was younger. There was a decent amount of that. It's just very different. Like the things that people suggest are different, but I do think it's more definite. Like there is more of a like a definite, here, use this.
Yeah, like when I mentioned to some friends of mine the issue with Mary's bug bites, for example, there was always a lot of like really helpful suggestions for what to do. And, I'm not saying that there wouldn't be in the US at all. I'm just saying I noticed that I think there's a little bit more of the idea in the US of you let your body take care of it. A lot of times depends on the people you're talking to, but people... At least
no, I feel like a lot of people use drugs and all, so I feel like maybe it's more of a kind of just a
maybe it's just the women I was around.
Yeah, maybe it's natural remedies.
I think some of my friends were a little hippie, so that could have been it. That could have been it, but
Zelionka is legendary. Yes, like Zelionka is impressive. Like as far as like bug bites, stuff like that, things on the skin, like it clears it up very quickly. It's not really an American thing, at least it's not that I knew about. So when she was born, they would have when we got home from the hospital, right? It was the whole thing was free because we were on the medical system here, and good quality and all that. And then they still had a doctor or nurse come by every few days to do a house call to check on us, also free.
Yeah.
But that was funny. She got here and was explaining to us, make sure to be putting Zelionka on, where on her belly where the cord's coming off and all that. And we're sitting here kind of looking at each other going, it's like, do you have any idea what this is? She acts like everyone knows what this is, and we don't know. And so we go and get it, and I'm sitting here going, Zelionka. Okay, I open it, and I'm like, oh, it's green. Okay, that's where the name comes from. Okay, that must be it. And then when you use it, you're like, oh my goodness, I have no idea, because it is this deep green, and it stains everything.
Oh my goodness,
like you put it on her belly, it's like going to be a month before you stop being green. And
yeah,
but it works well. It was just hilarious because we had no idea. It's like, oh, what's with this?
It was so funny. It really was so funny. But yeah, like it is interesting because like let's compare. Just like if you go with home birth, for example, they don't have you put Zelionka on the cord. You put it's like a powder on it. It's a completely different thing, completely different concept, different way of treating it. So I wasn't used to approaching it from that angle, so that was different.
Soloco's basically colored alcohol. Yeah, I could believe that. Yeah, I did not realize that, but thank you for that. It does the job. Погода в этом году нетипична для Москвы. Как вам климат, цены, полосы России? So someone in the chats here in the Russian comment was saying that the climate this summer has not been completely typical for Moscow. Yeah, it's been a very cold summer. Like
cold and wet.
Yeah, and so everyone tells me it's normal to have it's a bit warmer. I won't lie, it's been amazing. Let me clarify. I've grown up my entire life in places that are extremely hot and extremely humid, Georgia, South Carolina, not near the mountains. We're talking kind of the coastal plain, but far enough from the coast you don't get the coastal breezes. So all the areas that are just, you go in the woods, it feels a bit like a rainforest, all that. So, it's the nasty, humid areas. So I'm not really a big fan of hot, humid weather. I actually kind of just, I adore like fall weather,
we are both
early
like
spring.
Yeah.
And so this summer has been amazing. I know it's not typical, but for me, it's been amazing because
I've loved it too.
We had 3 weeks that broke into that were probably in like the 80s Fahrenheit. Was that like 30s something, whatever. And 80s, we might have broke 90 for a day in Fahrenheit. To me, that was amazing that we was only like 3 weeks. And up until that time, I was wearing something just like this, just a little light jacket during the summer because it would still be cool enough that you could wear a light jacket. And now we're right back to that weather. Though the leaves are like already turning out in the park in certain areas.
Yeah, so already. It's August.
I'm used to, we had 1 year in eastern North Carolina that was so warm, the leaves didn't start turning until November. It was after Halloween, and it was still like the leaves are still mostly green. And so here, middle of August, already turning, to me, it's just like, oh, I love this. But
I mean, I completely agree. It's really funny because like one of the not first conversations, but one of our like important conversations, like when we first met, included the discussion of weather. And we both said we liked rainy days and snowy days. It's funny. It's just like, not that it was that important, but it's funny that we clicked over that early on. Is it hard? What a cutie. Thank you. Is it hard raising children?
In general, or in Russia, in our situation specifically?
If you're meaning in general, like yes and no. It's like everything, like that's the thing. People will talk about raising kids like it is the hardest thing you'll ever do in your whole life, and I just like to think of it as like there are lots of hard things in life. Getting a new job is hard. It's a lot of people's work that they do every day without kids is about as hard as raising a child. So there's an element to which it's like, I think sometimes people will overblow it and actually scare a lot of people away from having kids. And that's really sad to me because it doesn't have to be that scary. It doesn't have to be that crazy. But at the same time, it is hard. It is a difficult thing that you're doing. But the way I look at it is hard things are worth doing. So, if you've ever worked hard for something, that feeling when you're all done is, wow, you feel, I'm not expressing myself very well, but you feel pride, like you did a good job, and you feel like you got something done that was worthwhile. So when you're raising kids, it is that same thing. It's hard, but it's not, I guess people talk about it like it's this level of hard that's unlike any other hard. And that's not true. It's a normal level of hard. It's normal life hard. It's a hard you can handle.
Yeah. Well, people also talk about having multiple kids or kind of make the assumption it's almost like some sort of linear growth, right? If one kid is this much of difficulty, 2 kids is twice that much difficulty. Like each new kid adds the same amount of difficulty. And I don't think that's really how it works out, right? When we had 1 kid, okay, that took getting used to. Then when we had 2, it didn't really double. It was more like 50% more difficult because to a certain extent, they entertain each other. They're friends with each other. You can, if you're getting a meal for one, you just get a meal for two. You do it at the same time,
Yeah.
you know. So
They
that's
eat the
also kind
same
of the thing. Is
thing.
like one kid can be difficult, you know, can be a little bit. You see, she's looking at the screen and confused. She's kind of looking at like, what is that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway, but you know, one kid can be difficult, but it's not like it doubles because a lot of what you're doing is just it becomes more efficient, right? You're making a meal, you just make a meal for two. It's not like
Exactly.
you know, you put them down for naps, you try to make the naps at the same time. You know, all these kinds of things.
But yeah, it's one of those things where one thing I realized relatively recently, because I mean I've only been a mom for 4 years, so I really, you know, I've not been a mom for that long. But one thing I was realizing now that Walter's reaching 4 is that that there's a kind of an investment process. You put a bunch of work and effort into your first and second children, and everything is really hard to teach the first one. It's really hard to teach them to put on their clothes. It's really hard to teach them to put on their shoes. It's really hard to teach them to use a spoon. At least with Walter, he never wanted to use a spoon. It's really hard to teach them to do basically anything. It takes a lot of effort. But then with Mary, it was magically easier. And I just thought, okay, that's her personality. But then I realized with Nastya, it was the same way. They are watching Walter. So you put all this time and effort, you invested into this first child. It's not like you have to put the same amount of effort teaching every single child the same amount because they learn from the first one. So like if you're trying to have multiple kids, just remember that like if you're on your first child and you're like, this is so hard trying to teach them to do all these things, your next one's going to learn from your first, and your third one's going to learn from your first and your second, and so on and so forth. So it gets easier in that way. Someone else said Zelionka has powerful healing properties. I believe it. I definitely believe it. Someone said, Beth, if you grew up in Odessa, then you probably speak perfect Russian, right? Or is Andrew's Russian better than yours? Andrew's Russian is better than mine. His grammar is really, really good. Where I grew up in Odessa, but my education was all in English. My friends all spoke English. So I didn't really learn the language like I wanted to. It was kind of like an English-speaking bubble, which I wish, in retrospect, had not been the case. And it's something we don't really want for our kids. We want them to speak the language. We want them to.
She's not being completely honest because her pronunciation's a lot better than mine, right? Her listening can be better than mine depending on the situation. Like her listening and pronunciation would be a lot better than me. She's got a little bit of some hearing loss, so that's more the only reason that so it just kind of depends. Since I took Russian in university and all, my reading is better and my grammar, if I had to write in Russian or read in Russian, I'm a lot better.
Yeah, but if we're writing something, I just hand the phone to him, you write it, I can't.
Or pronunciation, right? Pronunciation, she can pass as native if she's been doing, she's been in it, if she's been speaking mostly Russian for the last few hours, she can pass as some sort of native something where, it might not be exactly sure where from, but people kind of can hear her and assume. With me, that's not going to happen. Even when I was back in university, I was trying really, really, really hard on everything and putting all the effort into it in grad school and all. It's like the best I ever got was everyone started thinking I was Polish. Because I didn't sound, because my accent didn't quite sound American, so they always assumed I was Polish or Czech. That was about the best I could get.
You have a good accent. You're selling yourself short. You have a good accent.
But yeah, so it kind of depends on the thing. We have had the weird instance, I kid you not, where we've been in a situation where I speak, they kind of hear the accent, then they hear her say something, so they automatically start speaking to her because they assume she's native. she says something where the grammar doesn't quite make sense. They get really confused and kind of stare. She looks at me, asks me to explain what to say, then comes back and then says it. So we've had that weird situation.
And then they go, oh.
Yeah, where I'm, it's like a three-way translation bubble thing.
Yeah.
There's like that old episode of the old I Love Lucy show in the 50s where they're in Europe or something. They're translating back and forth between like 4 different people to make this chain to try and get across or something. And that's what it'll feel like sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had that before.
Oh, hi, Amy. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Yes, she has grown a lot since you last saw her, and we will need to have you come play at the park with us at some point soon. How would you define your financial status after moving to Russia? Is it the same level, or is it worse or better than before? Do you guys have a place to live? Are you renting? Any plans to buy a home?
That's an interesting one. If I'm going to be honest, I'd say it's probably...
pop out for a second while he answers this because I gotta...
Yeah.
From a soup.
As far as like financial position right now versus when we left, if I'm going to be honest, a little bit worse right now, but there's a description behind that in the sense of like I had a pretty good like middle class IT job that was not bad paying. It had like ridiculous amounts of bonuses and incentives, so I made a lot more than my actual salary, and so so that helped, and it made everything was quite comfortable. We weren't by any means rich or anything, but it's still we have pretty simple tastes. So for the amount that we needed, it was perfectly fine, even with 3 kids before coming. But here, I think the biggest issue isn't really more what I can be making right now. It was more when we first got here. We ended up coming initially on a tourist visa. So when we first got here, for the first over the half the time we were here, I couldn't really legally work. So we were kind of just living on savings and hanging out. And then when I finally could work, I was starting with English teaching job during the summer. And like with English teaching, you can, especially if you're a native speaker and you have experience, like I taught English for a while. In grad school and all that. I taught some ESL. I also taught with like companies that did like SAT tutoring. Also, I have a lot of background in that. If you have experience in that, you can make a decent living here in Moscow doing that. It's just we come off of months of just sitting on savings because I can't technically work. Hop into being able to start working in the summer when everyone's on vacation.
Yes.
And the work is much more limited.
Oh, yeah.
And so with those things, it's been a little bit tighter. So like now that summer's kind of wrapping up, there's been more teaching, stuff like this. It'll do better like that. I'm honestly at this point actually been doing a training with an internship type thing with a different job in a different sphere. And I'm going to see how that goes with that as well. So that might be a future announcement type thing. It's more in the news type sphere of doing like editing for the English side of news, a news channel stuff. But so I would say like if I was teaching at the level you would during the normal year with the places I'm working at, we'd probably be similar to the US if I'd been just like jumping straight into it as that, because you can make good money if you work hard and
absolutely
students like you and all. It's just been couldn't work summer, so the first few months was straight up all just living off of savings, and then summer has just been kind of this mix back and forth. I'd say summer since getting our documents and being able to start working. But then that was kind of like leading right into the down period, getting ready for summer when we finally got everything squared away and I could, and then found some places that hired me. Found a place that hired me. That was kind of hit the dip. So that first little while there before the end, we were kind of we were doing okay. Summer's kind of been more breaking even because we just hadn't had a chance to get established. Going back into this year would probably be a more more comfortable level.
Yeah, I think so.
Except if I make the decision to then jump career stuff on that, which might
Yeah,
happen.
we will. That is
TBD on that one.
We don't know on that one. So we have no idea on that one. But you can be in prayer about that.
Yeah.
It would be exciting.
Say, as an overall view of things, though, I would say when it comes to financially here, like you'll hear kind of the headline news based on, ruble dollar exchange rate, or be like, oh, people don't make that much money here. But at the same time, you kind of have to think more in like the purchasing power parity type stuff where it's like, it's what you make relative to the prices.
Exactly.
So what I'd be making teaching English and all here, we can live a pretty similar level of comfortable.
Yeah.
As I would with a fairly good IT job, good middle class IT job there. So it's what you make relative to the expenses, and stuff is a lot cheaper here at the same quality too. It's not like, it's like.
So like, for example, you can get a 3-bedroom apartment here for around, I'm just going to give a ballpark here, like say $700.
Yeah.
Now, I know that people make less here.
We're talking in a city approximately, actually a little bigger than New York City, depending on whether or not you're counting metropolitan area or city itself.
Yeah.
So you're talking a city that, depending on how you look at it, is bigger than New York City.
Yeah.
A 3-bedroom apartment that we can have several children in, for $700 a month, roundabouts.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Whereas in the U.S., now you're technically making more in the U.S., but rent is a lot higher in the U.S.
Astronomical.
We were paying for a 2-bedroom apartment, and you have to remember, in the U.S., apartments are considered a lot lower than houses, so we
were paying like $1,500 a month.
Yeah.
For
and
an
our
apartment,
rent was supposed to go up.
A similar, probably value to what we have right now, or will have if we end up doing with the one we're looking at.
Yeah.
For $1,500, and we're talking, we were outside, well outside the city limits of Charlotte, which is a city, a fraction the size of something like New York City.
Yeah. So it's like, if you're comparing how much you're making versus their rent, and it's.
Yeah, and groceries, everything else.
Yeah.
So it depends. Most things are just much cheaper. So when you kind of are balancing what you make versus how much things cost, whether it be groceries. One nice thing's like medical expenses are just so low. You're beyond the state medical system. That takes a lot out.
It does. Having to, like, insurance. If you get insurance through your work, okay, that's a lot cheaper. But if you're still paying a little bit for it, but it's like, we're talking very, very small amount. But if you have a medical problem, depending on your insurance, every company is different. But like, for example, for us, it's thousands of dollars, that you sometimes have to pay before the insurance really kicks in and covers everything. You have to pay thousands of dollars. So when Mary got really, really sick a year before we came, it ended up being like, we had good insurance, but it was still crazy expensive. We still had a very big bill at the end of the day. And so it's like, it does. That's part of the reason, if you wonder, like, why Americans are so, if you meet Americans and you're like, why do you never go to the doctor? Like, if you meet Americans and you suggest, well, just go to the doctor. You have a cold, just go to the doctor. And they're like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's because culturally we avoid the doctor as much as possible because it's so expensive.
Oh, yeah. It's like our Alicia having like just a bad runny nose and a little bit of a temperature, not high. And their Russian babushka, the lady's like, well, just call the doctor, have him come visit. And we're just like, no, we can't do that. And she was kind of this complete cultural disconnect. It's like, why on earth not? And like, we're Americans, you don't do that. It would cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I'm not doing that.
I'm not kidding. Like, one quick visit to the doctor, I remember, cost $180 to have like one test done. And we're talking a routine thing. I remember it cost $180 to do that at a cheap place.
Yeah.
I remember. Like, and then, so all of that to say that if you ever wonder that cultural disconnect, like, why are Americans like this? That is why. That is why.
Do you plan to have a garden or flowers there someday? That'd be more of a you than me. I'm not a big garden person.
I love houseplants. So in that sense, yes.
She's already getting started on that one. Some people have given her some, and so she's been.
Yes, I'm very excited about the houseplants that I have. I love them very much. They make the house feel very much like a home, and I really like that. I grew up in a house with a lot of houseplants. So to me, houseplants is part of making a home a home. But will I ever have a garden? It's unlikely. My mother used to garden a lot. That was her thing. And I would get super motivated and build a garden myself, and I would never stick to it. And so I just don't think that's something I will do as an adult. Just because as a kid, with my mother's help, I still never did it. So I doubt I'll like manage it as an adult. But houseplants I can do. I haven't killed my houseplants yet.
Yeah.
I haven't killed them yet, so I think we're good.
Yeah, she'll get there.
That's a you question.
Do you follow the news? What videos do you show your children, such as cartoons or educational programs? Yeah, so we are terrible about speaking Russian at home because we get lazy. We have every day we get up, not every day, but very often we get up and we're like, we're going to switch to all Russian in this house because we need the practice, yada, yada, yada. Because then I go off to work and then I teach English. So everyone speaks English to me automatically. There's a big office building I went into the other day, and I have to go past security to get in. And the guy at the door is like, "Hello, my friends," because they know I'm the English teacher, so they just automatically speak English to me. So it's actually kind of hard for me to speak Russian in Russia, because everyone sees me and goes, "You speak English? You teach English? Here, let me practice." So we'll get up and we'll say, "We're going to practice Russian," and then we get lazy because invariably something comes up with a document we need to check or something. We'll be like, okay, let's check it in English, make sure everything's, and then that's the end, And
it breaks the spell.
The one thing we've done better at is we kind of have typically followed a better rule of all videos for the children are in Russian. All TV shows we watch are in Russian, right? Mm-hmm. We just cranked through Zhuki or whatever, a Russian TV show, right? So we're at least trying to improve our Russian by making sure like the stuff we watch and listen to is in Russian. So the children watch a lot of it's a smattering of, it'll be Russian stuff like Masha and Medved's, like classic sort of Russian TV shows. Their Russian their Russian grandmother has a whole listing of older Soviet era shows. So No Pagodi, but there's not really much speaking in it. I think it's very similar to Tom and Jerry for anyone who's not Russian out there. It's a wolf chasing a rabbit, but it's almost exactly the sort of Tom and Jerry type scenario, except instead of the cat and the mouse, it's a wolf and a rabbit. Leopold's or whatever it was. Different. So they have like a collection of those type of things, and then also a decent amount of like the movies will be American movies but dubbed over in Russian. So we'll go to RooTube, and they like Cars, but it's Dashki in Russian, so all the sounds dubbed over in Russian. So it's kind of a collection. Like their movies tend to be, like Toy Story, things like that will be just, they tend to be more American ones, but dubbed in Russian. And then a lot of their TV shows tend to be more Russian TV shows, like Masha Medved, things like that. Which Masha Medved's a pretty good one. I enjoy. I can sit there and not want to kill myself if I have to watch it if I'm sitting with them.
Yeah, I remember babysitting way back when. This is when I was like 13. I was babysitting, and they were playing, like, this was at some type of conference my parents were at, and the teenage girls were the daughters of the employees who were at the conference, one of whom with me, were employed to then babysit the younger kids in the younger children. And so they had Masha Medved playing on in the nursery there, and I fell in love with the show even though I was 13. It was just so addictive. It was so like fun to watch.
Yeah. There's the giant toy store in the middle of Moscow. It's like Centralny Детский Magazin. It used to be Детский Mir, but now that's a brand of like multiple stores, more like a Toys R Us thing. But this giant toy store right in the dead center. And I popped in there just to grab footage for a short or something because I'd never been in there. And I was walking by after teaching an English lesson. I was like, let me run in there, just grab footage for a short, and we'll come back with the kids and know what we're getting into. and they had this like giant statue of the little girl from Ashram India. It's like 8 feet tall. But anyway, as far as news, that's kind of a combination. I have a decent smattering of a lot of I try to get in some Russian practice on that. So I have like a lot of like Russian Telegram channels, blogs, stuff like that I'll do to mix it in there. And then it's hard to kick the habit of still cycling through American news as well. So, I'll pull up Fox and then CNN back to back because I hate myself, because no matter which way you spin it, someone's lying. If you listen to those two back, whatever, I'll do that kind of stuff and try to go back and back. I'll cycle through some American ones and I'll hop on a bunch of like Russian Telegram channels, stuff like that. So that's. It's good for it's good for the Russian practice. I realized I was very limited on like vocabulary to do with like economics. It's like there's one that's all financial news I follow. That's that one used to kick my tail in the beginning. It took a while to get used to that.
Oh, 1 second. Do you have any plans to move out of the big city to the countryside?
Yes and no. It's going to be easier, I think, all the way through permanent residence / maybe citizenship, talking with our immigration lawyer, to be in Moscow proper.
Yeah.
So definitely for the next year or so, where we at least get through VNJ, that's permanent residence. I don't think so. I think we want to stay inside the city limits.
Mm-hmm.
We are like as close to the edge of the city limits as we possibly can be, because we are, I'm the country mouse in the city right now, but that's not completely fair. I like being in the capital because I can take a bus downtown and I pass Red Square and I pass the Duma building. That's kind of cool actually. But so I like being near where stuff is happening, but still I also would prefer to be outside. I think Beth would too. I think what we are hoping is, to kind of, now that things are settling a bit more financially and all, making more money with the English teaching, potentially if I decide to go in with the new job stuff I've been looking at, I think we're probably going to start saving more, go ahead and try to get a car, stuff like, more in our case, a van. And after a year or two, start looking kind of Moscow area, but more outer edges when you start getting further out. Well, even further out. But you know what I mean? When you start getting further out to some of these places where there's the hope of finding a house or something, or bigger apartments for cheaper, you're at least closer on the edge of being out there. So probably heavily suburban areas, but still, trying to move out of the city proper. That is the goal.
The goal.
That or a dacha someday. One or the other. I need a way to be close enough to the edge that I can get to the countryside.
Absolutely. The Western mainstream claims that there is no freedom or respect for human rights in Russia. What would you say to them in response to this claim? I think that'd be
the wording sounds like a news interview on that.
It does. Why don't you answer this real quick? I need to keep working on the soup.
Yes. That wasn't a criticism.
This is an Andrew question.
That wasn't a criticism. I'm just commenting. It's very structured, like a news interview questions. I think there's. You okay?
Yeah, I was just grabbing this. I need the recipe.
Yeah, you get into this weird situation now to where, when it comes to sort of like trusting media and things, you kind of have to balance things out, right? The claim used to be, like if you go back to the Cold War era or something like that, right, is you could trust Western media more than Soviet media or something, right? Because it was more diversified, right? There could be multiple points of view. They could check each other. And to a certain extent, we kind of are in a world where, I agree with that, but in the sense of, you need to try to balance it out. But there is the challenge to where when it comes to Western stuff, we're kind of going back into this sort of weirdly Cold War propaganda mindset to where Western stuff, right? You just won't challenge it. I'll talk to people and they'll say, "Oh yeah, now CNN is telling the truth," or if you're a Republican, Fox is telling the truth, and you'll kind of be like, "Well, why?" I was like, "Well, because I like what they say, basically." And I meet a lot of Russian people who will say, "Oh no, I don't trust Russian news. I don't trust any news because everyone's news is paid for by somebody, so you always have to kind of keep that in mind." And I do find in the West a lot more people just kind of trust whichever source they're set with, and they don't really think about it particularly critically. And I'm not trying to slam everyone. There's tons of smart, critically minded people, but I find more commonly people are not as suspicious. There's sort of like this habit of just of trusting, if you're a Republican, Fox, if you're a liberal, MSNBC or maybe CNN. Whereas in Russia, there's a little bit more suspicion of that, and I think it's sort of this healthy mindset of you need to balance it because literally everyone has a point of view and a place they're coming from. So when it comes to, like, say, the propaganda war stuff, I would say the best thing's more to balance it out. Go read your RT, go look on RIA Novosti. You can look at Western media, balance it all out, because I'll say, when it gets down to it, if you do read that all and balance it, which, by the way, I can still read Western media here. It's no problem. I prop on the BBC, British government backed stuff. I pop on anything every day here. And you kind of just need to balance it out. And I'll say, if you come here in person, certain narratives, they just don't line up the same. I remember when I was here 5 or 6 years ago, there was stuff going around in the media in the US about these massive protests, and like, is this going to turn into something where Putin's going to get overthrown? And I had family call me and ask, what about these massive protests out on Red Square, are you guys safe there? And I'd just been to Red Square like that day because I would stop off there coming back and forth from the university. And if there was any massive protest, it was 5 people with a sign, The way it was being portrayed was completely radically different from how it really was. And then, I have family in California, so when there was the most, fiery but peaceful protests, I had family on the ground to say mostly peaceful protests were not as the media portrayed it. So I always was kind of skeptical. So there is this kind of need to actually balance it out with multiple sources and all. So when it comes to how Russia's portrayed, no, it doesn't feel anything like the way it's portrayed. And you kind of just, need to be a little bit skeptical on that because, the way we portray our own news is very misleading, right? If you're in the United States, right, if you're a Republican, you spend all your time saying that the Democrats are lying about everything, right? If you're a Democrat, you spend all your time saying the Republicans are lying about everything. But at the same time, you believe what each other says about Russia and you believe that they're terrible. It's like, you think they get everything wrong, but we all agree that Russia must be terrible for some reason, but you think they lie about everything else. Why do you think they get that right? And so you kind of have to be critical and treat it in that same way. Like, if you're in the United States, both parties say horrible things about the others, right? And so that's my rambling take on it needs to be balanced out, because just how everything is very warped. If you're in America, right, how each side portrays the other in politics is completely warped. How we portray other countries can be very much the same. So, for anyone who's wondering, it's difficult now with sanctions, but, try to get the visa, come for a visit, meet a bunch of Russian people. It's very different from how it's portrayed. It just doesn't match up in any way how the media portrays it. Any perspective? So I'm going to leave that question for Beth when she gets back about Odessa. Any perspective for an IT job inside Russia for a foreigner? I see some people who moved here are struggling to find a job. Only English teaching is kind of available. Yes. So I would say, this is my impression, because I haven't really been looking in IT. I did work in IT before coming here, but I'm not a big computer person, if that makes sense. I got a job in IT because of my teaching background. It was more in like training and consulting type work. And they hired me. Their hiring process was weird. They did it kind of on these like IQ tests, and then they would kind of cross reference and go, okay, you did well enough on these weird tests we gave you, and you have a teaching background. Perfect. When it comes to training, we can teach you the IT, but we can't teach you to teach. So I know the company I worked with, their IT system very well, but I'm not a computer person. So when I came here, I didn't really look because I didn't feel like trying to go through a massive training process to learn an individual company's IT stuff if that wasn't really my overall background. I wasn't into coding or anything like that. That's my big disclaimer on IT is I'm not really coming at it. I'm more going off of my impression from talking with other people. I think a lot depends on where you go. So I know a lot of people, like there's a lot of effort in getting people to go to like Nizhny Novgorod. I think a lot of IT people will go there, and there's a lot of foreigners who go there. So I get the impression it does depend on where you go, what city, and what sphere you're looking into. So I've heard of people and I've known of some people who've gone into IT and because that was their background in the US, but there is going to be that barrier that sometimes it can be a little hard if you're trying to get a job with an IT company where everyone there speaks Russian. You don't speak any Russian and not many people there speak much English. It can be limiting. So I get the impression there's a lot of IT jobs and a lot in that field, but sometimes it can be limiting. So sometimes it might be better to figure out what city, what area you're going to, right? I've heard there's a lot of a lot of people, a lot of encouragement for people to go to Nizhny Novgorod and IT if they're foreigners, because there's companies trying to hire the foreigners and such. So it depends on the context. And if you jump into learning Russian, I think it helps because I do get the impression that's the limiting factor where it's like, we want to hire you, but there's a little hang up that we can't talk with you very well in the job place. All right, let's see. Going on some of these other here. Let's see. Yes, channels run by foreigners who have moved to Russia. One of them, famous Russian American, Justin Walker. There are also families from Canada and Australia. Have you seen any of them? Yes. We have seen quite a few of them by now, partially because with our channel we get suggested a lot of it. I will say... okay, little girl, hang on one second here. Yeah, some of those channels were actually very important with us coming over because when we were in... Little girl, are you just being impatient or are you getting hungry? Is that what it is? When we were looking to come over, so we were here 5-6 years ago, I think. I was finishing up my master's, and then I went back to the US and I was in a seminary program for a little bit. And we were planning to come back to Russia. We didn't have children yet, but we were thinking in terms of we might it might be a good place to have kids. So we were thinking about coming back then, and then the whole special military operation, sanctions, all of that. So we weren't really sure how feasible it would be to come back with documents. So it took 5 or 6 years. We kind of were just not really moving on it. And so actually we saw some of the channels of families that went over, and we'd been wanting to come back, but we'd kind of been waiting to see if it seemed feasible. And so seeing some of those channels actually were, it was very important with us deciding to go ahead and come because we were realizing, wow, there's families with, more kids than we've got. Some of them don't speak any Russian coming over, whereas we spoke some. And so that was kind of gave us a big kick to go ahead and say, okay, if they can do it, we definitely should be able to. We got fewer kids, so fewer logistical hangups, and speak some Russian. So,
what question are we on right now?
What's your dream profession?
Before we answer that question, real quick, could we move this to the kitchen because I have to be doing a bit more cooking?
Sure.
I think you could. I've got a place I think you could set for that.
Yeah. Can you like pause this and then start it back, or is that going to kick it?
I think we're just keep it going. Sorry guys, we're figuring this out. And you just carry it into the other room, I think.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
On that, and I will grab her.
All right. Sorry guys, we are moving to the kitchen because. Oh,
yes, come on.
All right, everything's still working. Okay. Yeah, we're moving to the kitchen because the soup is taking more time, and I kind of can't be in the same room. So, I think you can sit right there, and I can take her.
Yeah.
You've probably seen this backdrop from the shorts where Andrew is trying out new food.
Yes. Dream profession. I don't know, honey. What's my dream profession? You'll have to decide for me. What's my? Are you trying to headbutt me?
That's hard because you have lots of different things you like.
Yeah, I'm interested in too many things. I don't know. Maybe someday history professor or something. But I'd have to get through a PhD, and I don't know if I'm ever going to do that with children.
Like work where you get to learn about stuff that you care about.
That's true.
So whether that's theology, politics, but the thing is, you are interested in a lot of different things.
Journalist. There you go.
Yeah, so that would be something you do well at, but also you like learning about theology and stuff like that. So it's kind of this weird mix of like there isn't one profession that would fit all of that.
I'm a professional student at heart. I got through one master's degree and then I've been piddling away the second one. I think at this point it's more or less just a hobby because it's not actually doing anything. So, yes, I guess professional student. I don't know, maybe something like a journalist or something. I don't know if there's any way to get into that to where at this late in my getting settled into a certain groove of stuff I'm going into, but we'll see. So, do you have friends who ask about how it's going for you there? How are there any who show interest in moving also? What was the reaction of your family and friends when you moved? Okay. Yeah, like a lot of people ask or interested. It's kind of interesting. You get some people's sort of reaction is they've watched CNN or American movies, and so they just kind of assume it's North Korea, and so they kind of have this reaction of, I've heard all the questions. I've had people ask me about, well, how is it that you're living in a communist country or something ridiculous like that? So I've had all those kinds of questions, and they come out of love. People are concerned and all that. And so a lot of people, it's more or less, you talk to them, you describe what it's like, what it was like last time we lived here, what it's like we live here now. And then they kind of have the realizations like, oh, wow, that sounds kind of like living in a big city in the U.S. So in Moscow's case, less crime than a lot of the cities we lived in the U.S. But, so a lot of people, it kind of calms down once you kind of talk with them a little bit about that. I think we have various friends and people we know who are very traditional Christians and such, who are interested in moving. Now, I'll be honest, I think it was kind of like there were people leading up to the election who were a bit more interested, and then it was kind of like there was this dead period after the election, and I think that's sort of kicking back in again. I think there's sort of this realization that, Trump is not going to somehow fix everything and all the problems are not going to be gone, and maybe the trajectory is still going to be a little, it might not be clear sailing all the way across. Hey, could you set her in the thing?
Sure, 1 second.
She's getting to be a little distracting right now. And so I think I'm hearing more people we know and all who are once again kind of talking about it and thinking about it. But I have known a lot of people. It is one of those things where if you move and, from conventional American wisdom, they're going to think you're kind of crazy. Then you start talking to people and you'll suddenly have a lot of people come out of the woodwork and say, yeah, I'm not sure how things are going. I'd kind of like to move to a different place. So there are more people who think that way than one might expect. And so we have, we've met people here who've also moved and become friends with them as well. One of those was just in the chat earlier, but as well, you find out a lot more people back home as well, or would like to, or thinking about it, stuff like that. So it's not as out there as we thought once upon a time. Let's see.
Put too much hot sauce in that. Oh dear.
Are we afraid?
What's the question?
Пугают ли вас домашние медведи, у ваших соседей, заставляют ли вас пить водку по утрам? In general, no. In terms of I think that it's more of a tongue-in-cheek, getting at a lot of the traditions and all here. That is one thing I remember when going to Russia. People who visited in the past saying sort of the cultural things, like kind of having to drink and stuff like that culturally. I guess I don't. I'm pretty much a teetotaler. I'm not like opposed to alcohol. I wasn't raised fundamentalist Baptist or something like that where I thought it was wrong. My mom had slightly more of those type of roots, so I think she might have tended to think that way, but my father wasn't from that background. So, but yeah, I still just never drank growing up. So it is kind of funny here. There will be some cultural type stuff where there's a little bit more of an expectation of drinking, but it's not nearly as much as any sort of American stereotypes make it out to be. It's never been that big. I know when I was visiting Odessa, this is years ago, there was like a birthday party and all that where it was like basically being forced on you. You had to drink the whiskey or else you weren't going to be rude. So I remember in that one, to not get drunk, I had to trick people I would go and fill up my glass with the apple juice that was there, so it looked like I had whiskey in my cup, so I could keep taking drinks, but it was just the apple juice because I was like, I'm not. So anyway, but no, the alcohol culture and stuff like that hasn't been. It's not nearly as strong in Moscow. I think there's more in the modern era, more of a health consciousness culture, so it's a little more normal to be able to refuse drinks without it being offensive and stuff.
I never have that problem because I'm always pregnant or breastfeeding.
Yeah. Since the person did also mention, since you also did mention bears and all, I do find it very funny. I have to show this. This was in one of my shorts. I don't know if it's gone out yet or it was.
It has, I think.
Okay, it was a short that was out there. I made a joke about it. Is in the last 2 months before I left the U.S., I saw bears 3 different times because with my work, I would travel a decent amount. So I would go up into like Asheville, that's area in like the edge of the mountains in North Carolina. I would kind of go up in there. So I take like a 4-hour drive, go all up in there and then come back with my work. And I saw bears like 3 different times in like the last 2 months before going up there, and like one of the times like he ran right out in front of my car and I happened to like not hit it, and another time it ran out and just like staring at me through the window of my car. So it was very funny. And my entire life living in the countryside in the South, never saw a bear. Saw 3 of them in like a month and a half. And then so I come over here and I remember talking to a Russian guy. Something came up about like hiking, wildlife. He says, "You've seen 3 bears. I've never seen any in my life. Why is it that we put up with the Russian? Why is it that I, as a Russian guy, have to hear all the bear stereotypes? You've seen more than anyone in Moscow probably has." So, no, it's that's, I don't know. It's funny to me, all the bear stereotypes. Very civilized here. Such a big city. There's not crazy amounts of wildlife anywhere right nearby. Though lots of foxes, since I think we're right near the big forest, though. You get a lot of random foxes that'll wander out.
Yeah, foxes, and there's plenty of birds and stuff like that, but bears, that type of thing, no, not so much.
What kind of soup are you cooking? Is it Russian soup or American soup?
Oh, that's a story. I'll sit down.
Uh-oh. Okay, she's sitting down to tell the story.
Well, so there was... okay. All right. Hi. So there was this soup that Andrew really liked in the States that was a canned soup. And it was a really easy dinner for me to give him if I didn't feel like cooking.
Well, I would also just do it in college. I would just go get the canned soup when I was lazy.
And he recently said, like, I'm missing that soup. Is there a way you can find a way to make that soup? So I looked it up online and I found like the outside of the can and like was able to read the ingredients. And then I like looked up the name of the soup and found like a dupe recipe that was, dupe means like a copy. Someone trying to figure out how to make it, which was actually it was different in some ways from the back of the can. But I took that recipe and I adjusted it to match what the can said. So, like, for example, the recipe included bacon and cheese. The can does not include bacon and cheese, so I left that out, that type of thing. And so it's a soup that is kind of Tex-Mex, basically. Like,
yeah, it's like
American
Texas,
Mexican.
it's like Texas corn chowder or something like that, but you add a lot of peppers to make it kind of spicy. So
hot sauce, peppers, chicken, potatoes, corn.
Yeah.
Some beans. Though.
She does good with inventing soups because we have a lot of the soups we eat are actually kind of invented. So we have like...
It's often a team effort, usually.
Oh, we had one time when we came home from, I don't know, we had to go get our documents done or something, or like there's nothing, and she's complaining there's nothing here. And I went to the fridge, I opened the fridge, and it's like, we got cooked chicken, we've got roasted chicken we made up for some, or no, it wasn't cooked yet. So we had chicken in there. She's like, there's nothing here that can actually make a meal. And I was like, well, you got potatoes here, you got some little bits of potatoes and rice here, and some chicken, and you've got a lemon in here. It's like, we can put all that together into a soup. She's like, there's no way. It's like, yeah, there is. Come on, you can do it. She's like, fine, I'll try. And she puts it together. Now it's like one of our favorite soups we turned into our recipe, and we make it. It's diced up potato with chicken and rice, and then lemon, a lot of lemon in there to give that little bit of citrus. Lemon and pepper, yeah. And so it turned out okay. So yeah, we've a lot of our soups are created, but she does good borscht. I'm trying to think any other Russian base more.
I know how to cook. Very simple, but I know how to cook griechka.
Okay, yeah, we do a lot of griechka because of the kid. It's like super cheap. It's, what is that, buckwheat in the U.S.?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's super ridiculously cheap. You can just buy it by the kilogram downstairs, and our pechorchka is basically a borderline right underneath our building. It's building over, but still. And you can go buy it for super cheap, cook it up. Children love it. Do that, mix it with, put a little bit of sausage with it or something like that. Do whatever, and it's very filling.
Ketchup over it too.
Yeah, the kids slather it in ketchup, and I'm too American to think of ketchup being on anything other than a hamburger, a hot dog, or fries. So I can't do it. But the kids are just like, put it on everything. Are there any books you would recommend? Oh, wait a minute. Do you like Akroshka? Beth, that might be a you.
Akroshka? Let me see the question.
Okay.
I don't think I've been there. Or I'm not sure what you mean. Akroshka, I assume it's a location?
I'm not sure on that. I'm blanking. Maybe is it a dish? Is it a dish I'm missing? Yeah. If you explain on that, specify on that what that is. I'm blanking on that. Are there any books you would recommend about differences in society from communism to how it is now? It is hard to understand.
That's one thing, a Russian thing I do make a lot.
Oh yeah, that's another thing on the food thing. Lots of griechka, and then she's gone in hardcore on kotlety. So like meat cutlets. It's very common here. I'd say it's kind of just it's like having a hamburger patty or something like that. So you just make it with sausage and all. It's quite it's pretty affordable because you can get some pretty good cheap ground meats, go to like Globus or something, get a good deal on it. And then and so you get a good deal on that, and then you go have it over like Gurechka or something like that. So Beth does like a bunch of like kotlety. It goes a good ways too because you make a mass batch of them and just kind of have them in there, pop them out, heat them up, put them with Gurechka, and you have a meal. Boom, that easy. Yeah. So it's very easy that way. As far as that other question though about books you'd recommend about differences in society from communism to how it is now. It's hard to understand. That's interesting. I'm trying to remember the author. There was a book. It's old now. It was probably made in 2000. I think it was written in maybe like 2002 because the very last chapter has a little bit with the very beginning of President Putin's first term, but it was still it was still first term when it was written. So it was by an American journalist who had spent a lot of time, like basically a huge chunk of the 90s as a reporter in Russia. I want to say it was called like The Oligarchs. And it was a very in-depth overview of basically the period of the 90s, the Yeltsin administration. It was quite good. It was written at that magical period where there was still where it was the beginning of the Putin administration, where things were coming out of the 90s, things were getting under control. It wasn't as chaotic, but there was still hope that there was going to be able to be some, the West hadn't gone into the mode of demonizing everything to do with the Putin administration, stuff like that. So it wasn't coming at it with nearly as much of an axe to grind. So it was looking at everything that happened in the 90s from a more Western journalistic perspective, with a decent amount of research behind it. It was well written. That was a pretty good book. I think it was called The Oligarchs. It was written in like 2002. It might be hard to find though. I had to do some digging to find it, but it was quite good though, because it kind of was coming at that period where it wasn't quite as ideologically driven to attack stuff. It was tried to be a bit more objective on it. Why didn't you move to Sochi with the climate of Florida or Krasnodar with the climate of Tennessee? I have heard that about Krasnodar. A good friend of ours is from there. I'm going to be honest. I like the colder weather.
Yeah.
I grew up almost my entire. I mentioned it earlier, but I grew up almost my entire life in like very like hot, humid areas like Georgia, South Carolina, Eastern North Carolina. The headquarters, my last job was in Houston, Texas, so it's like super humid and hot there, and I'd be there in the summertime. A lot of times I have our meetings and all. I don't like it. I actually like cold weather. My mother's from Oregon, so I just claim it's genetic. I just claim I inherited the more, American version of northern, right? It's still a lot further south latitude-wise. So I like the cold weather. As far as like logistics, doing paperwork and stuff like that was a lot easier here in Moscow. Even like before we came, we had an immigration lawyer we'd have kind of contact with, and he was saying like hands down Moscow will be the easiest as far as working through that process. Do you know who Matrona is? Yes. We've had it's so funny, like we've had lots of different people, completely disconnected friends tell us, oh, you need to come to the female Zhensky monastery in Russian. So nunnery, there we go. The Russian is just female monastery, and so like it messes with my brain, so I forget the word nunnery in English now forever. Yes, you need to come there, see the church, and also we've had multiple friends completely unconnected take us there, tell us all about it. It's a very beautiful place there. They've got the icons outside. I don't know why it is. There's always this huge line of people to come see her icon that's outside. And there's always a huge line of people to go inside to see the icon and relics that are in there. But there's a longer line to go to the outside when you could go inside to actually see her, the relics and all that. I don't understand that one. It's always funny to me. There's always a longer line just to go to the icon that's on the outside. If anyone knows why that is, please explain, because I've even had Russian people here scratch their heads and tell me I can never figure that out. Why there's always a longer line to the outside than the inside. Yes, Gresh is perfect. Why didn't you move to... I already had that one. Akroshka is a traditional Russian cold soup based on kvass and kefir. They almost have that.
No, I don't think
I don't think I've tried it. Maybe at the Ram at the church, like Trapeza, the sort of the dinner after church. Maybe. Okay, it's going on the list. I promise. I'm going to try it because now I want to try it because I like kvass and I like kefir. So I need to try this. I'm still playing catch up a lot of this on still a lot of the foods. Like most of our food experience comes from like trapizza and stuff like that. So we're still playing like this long catch up experience at Vedinha, this like big outdoor sort of festival area with these different museums for different within like republics within the Soviet Union when it was built and all this. There's this big food court, I guess you'd say, that's dedicated to like all the different regions of Russia and all that, and it's just overwhelming all the different traditional food variations you can go to this area that's like Kamchatka, and they had seal meat or something there, I think, and then like lots and lots of crab meats, things like that. It's just radically different depending from these different regions and all. So it's so much to catch up on, but I will definitely add that to the list. I've been really really enjoying that. Author David Hoffman, I think it was actually. Honey, cover for a second because I just realized I left my foot in there, my phone in there, so I'll check it on there.
Sure.
I think it was actually. It's been a few years since I read that. Let me check.
Hello, everybody. Let me see here. Do you make your own kvass or buy it? No, we don't make our own kvass. We do need to buy it because Andrew really likes it. I haven't drunk it enough to really have an opinion. I drank it a little bit and didn't like it, but I am aware that kvass grows on you. Like, you can start drinking it, not like it so much, but then it grows on you over time. So that's why I'm saying I haven't drunk it enough to have an opinion, because I'm aware that a lot of people need to drink it quite a bit before they really know what they think about it. So I don't tend to just buy it at the store, but now that I think about it, I probably should, because Andrew really likes kvass. The question was, do you make your own kvass or buy it? And I was saying I don't really buy it because I haven't drunk it enough to really have an grown an interest.
She's not as big a fan of it.
But you kind of need to drink it a lot to get used to it.
Kvass is like coffee. You have to drink it long enough to get to where you like it.
Yeah, and I haven't done that. So I haven't personally gravitated towards buying it in the store, but maybe we should.
We had a friend back in the United States. He's not Russian at all, but he's really into I think he was trying making like homemade schnapps, he'll just try different things. I think he was going to try and make homemade kvass. I found some different places that have like sold more, like restaurants, or I remember back in Odessa there was a place on my corner that they had like a little stand where they had like shawarma and homemade kvass. And so some of the homemade was very good, like much, to my mind, much better than the bottle one you have in the store. The bottle one in the store is fine. The homemade ones they had at some of the places are much better to my mind. Yes, on the question about the book, I checked it. Yeah, that was David Hoffman on that. It's been a long time since I read it, but I remember that one was quite eye-opening, quite interesting. Also, as far as not so much granular level of Russian society, but for someone who's coming at it from the West, like a more kind of Western perspective, kind of outside looking in, I want to say Glenn Deason had a few books that were decently good. Like I want to say he's a professor of geopolitics from Norway. That's more of a kind of big picture geopolitics type of stuff. But he's not being Russian, he kind of has that more outside perspective that might be more accessible to someone who's maybe American, European, but he's also not got this sort of, he doesn't have an anti-Russian axe to grind, so he does a pretty good job of trying to balance stuff out. So, do they have kombucha here? Yes, they do, I think. I think I have fermented tea.
But correct us in the chat if we're wrong.
I think I've seen it around. Yes, I do think I've seen that around, actually. I don't think we've had it since being here, have we?
I'm not a big. I haven't really gotten onto the kombucha thing. I had friends who really liked kombucha. I had a friend who made her own, but I just never really was in on that.
I need to also see. There's a tea that's actually kind of seasonal here that people have been making. That I had somewhere. Our kind of Russian grandmother was doing. Okay, I gotta find this here. It's from. I think it's Rabina or Rabina. Someone can tell me if I'm wrong. The tree. It's like these orange berries growing on the trees. I didn't see them much in the U.S. I think they're called in the United States. They're called like mountain ash. Um, is that? Yeah, I think it's mountain ash. I might be wrong. I need to check that. And so apparently you can make like the berries are very sour, but you can turn them into like preserves or make a tea out of them. So someone was having me try that recently because there's a lot of these mountain ash trees, a relatively large amount around here in Moscow. I mean, this area. And that was a quite interesting tea. It was very good. It was a little bit sour, but it was actually quite good. I don't think you. It was when I was out and about with. Yeah, I don't think you got to try that. It was quite good. You would have liked it.
Okay.
Walter loved it. He got to try it as well.
If Walter loved it, there's a good chance I would. He likes anything.
Oh, someone comments in here. Russians calling kombucha chiny grib. Interesting. I did not know that. I'm not a big tea person. Beth is a big tea drinker. I'm weird. I don't even drink iced tea, and I grew up in the South, so I just am I could say I'm a teetotaler in the sense I don't do any tea, but I'm weird all across the board. I don't do coffee or tea. And no, I was never raised Mormon or anything. It was not any background that we were opposed to caffeine or anything. I didn't come from any background where I was opposed to caffeine or anything like that. It was just because I won't lie. I uphold American stereotype that I did drink a lot of soda.
Oh, so. But you need to tell them what you're doing now with soda.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I did drink a lot of soda. I found here in Russia a workaround on that to be a little bit more healthy. Is here in Russia, for our non-Russian viewers, right? The gazirovnaya voda, like the sparkling water, I guess it would be like the fizzy water. You know, it's the adds the fizz for soda and all. It's very common for people to just drink that as like a drink. So if you go get bottles of water, you know, I'll go have an English lesson at some business or something, and they've got their nice office in there, and they'll offer like, oh, do you need water? And like, sure, it'll be like sparkling or just normal, or you know. And so it's much more common to drink here, whereas in the U.S. that's pretty unheard of. So very cheap, just like our Pechorchka and all that, you can pick it up for almost the same cost as just getting a big jug of normal water. And so here, since I had the bad habit of having the unhealthy soda, I started getting to where I would just mix the gas water, the sparkling water with my soda. So now I barely drink soda anymore. It's just like very watered. It's like so watered down. It's just 3/4 just the soda water or the gazirovnaya with like a little bit of soda just to give it like the tiniest flavor of the Everest or whatever it is, and that'll be it. Which is very funny because the Everest is just Pepsi under a different title. You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Cabinet door. Oh, wait.
So, let me see here, though. Did you have anything else on the tea side or anything to add? And then we might
anything I wanted to add on the tea side?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love tea, and you're very accurate on that. I absolutely love tea. For me, I'm very sensitive to caffeine, so that's a little bit of a problem for me. So I have to limit how much black tea I drink. Yes, I am sensitive to black tea. That's how sensitive to caffeine I am. So when I drink black tea, I will make it rather diluted, and I actually recently started adding milk to it. And I like my tea very, very sweet, which is one thing I know here, like if you're eating dessert, you have your tea without sugar. I am the weird person who still puts sugar in my tea.
Yeah.
Not a good thing, but I like it.
Let's see. If I miss a question, by the way, please don't be offended. We've been doing a little haphazard on here. Do you know Tim?
And a lot of you guys have said some really sweet things. Thank you so much. Sorry if we didn't respond to what you said. So thank you so much for your kind comments.
Yeah, some of the ones I missed here. Recommend. We haven't tried cooking like cabbage soup. I've had it, as in rapids of different places. You'll have different. It's definitely had it. We should probably try to make that. You've done like borscht and.
I should probably make that. Yeah. Next on the list. She's
the good cook. I'm the
backseat
driver.
He has the brains. Like
no.
He's selling himself short, but he has a very good palate and a very good sense of food. So if he decided he wanted to cook, he could be very, very good at it. So that's why I said like a lot of our soups are a team effort, because we'll sit and discuss and he'll come up with a really good combination. Then I'll put it together and it works.
Yeah, well, okay. We have had those times where I'll be like, have you ever thought about doing a potato soup and doing instead, adding this, that, and the other?
Yeah, we did, we talked about earlier. But
my problem is I'm just not good at cooking and I'm too lazy. So like when I was in college or something, I would just be like, go get cans of soup and then,
this is why we're a good team.
Horribly unhealthy stuff.
This is why we're a good team. Together we make great food.
Yeah, or if I were to try and make something like a big pot of soup, I would then just put it in the fridge and eat the exact same meal for lunch and dinner for the next 4 days until it was gone, and just not change. So I would have I'd have been dead by just not taking care of myself by now if I'd gotten married. I just so terrible at it.
How many rooms are there in your apartment? Is it big? We have 3 rooms, so 2 bedrooms, and a living room for our American viewers.
It's pretty it is pretty small. Like the rooms aren't very big. We'd actually mentioned that was a thing we mentioned in passing at the very beginning.
Very, very beginning.
That we're actually in the process of looking at maybe doing a different apartment. It's actually not too far from here, thank goodness. So we'll be able to kind of stay in the same area. But it's the same thing in the sense of like, sorry, I turned the wrong way. 2 bedrooms, 1 living room, but all the rooms are a good bit bigger. And so that'll be a lot more helpful because like right now, like our bedroom's pretty cramped. Even the kids' room is the biggest, but it's still pretty small, whereas this one's significantly bigger. And the living room as well is a bit bigger. So just we'll have a decent bit more space with that. So as I said, at some point, I guess the goal is to get outside the city limits with more of a house. But for right now, as we get through all the documents, all easier to stay apartments in the city limits. Let me see.
But any prayers on the apartment process would be very much appreciated.
Yes, if any prayers you can offer on that side, we're hoping it all works out. Do you know Tim Kirby? I'm aware of who he is. I've not actually listened to him. I think it's the podcast. I think he's based out of Moscow. He's in Russia. He's in Moscow, I think, right?
You're the news person.
I've not actually listened to him. I do need to on that. I've heard of him before. So if you've got a good recommendation on that, I'll definitely need to check him out. Can you describe what church is like for you there? Sorry, it jumped where I was reading that there. Yes, we have been going to. We were both raised Protestants, more high church Protestant backgrounds. Yeah. We were shifting Orthodox even before coming here. So if we'd stayed in the U.S., we probably would have been in a weird, awkward position of trying to choose between being Anglican, but they're diehard liberal, and so that wouldn't have worked. No. And then going Orthodox, but we were still a bit Protestant to go Orthodox. Yeah. Anyway, coming here simplified that since we were already kind of on the cusp of that. We were more kind of leaning some sort of, if there had been like Reformed Anglican or something like that, that's probably where we would have been. Something like conservative Reformed Anglican or something would have probably been where we landed, but it's hard to find.
Yeah, they're very hard to find.
So coming here, we kind of ended up just pulling the trigger since we had already been, on the edge of some of the Orthodox type stuff for a long time. So we've been going to the Orthodox church down the road here. Culturally wise, it's a big culture difference between if you're raised, I don't know, Baptist or Presbyterian in the U.S., much more liturgical style of worship, right? If you're Baptist or something, right, everything's built around the sermon, whereas here, I'd say it's much more built around the sacraments as the central thing. So the communion. There will be, sermon, or I guess you say homily and all that, but they tend to be small, and there might be multiple different times in there with ours. I will say here, like with ours, I think ours is exceptional, but it is definitely a massive like community center.
Very much.
Very much like the church is open, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, right?
You always going in.
Opens up, like they open the gate at like 6:30 a.m. or something, and it doesn't really close until probably like 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes it seems like. So it's open for people to go pray. They have liturgy service there, I'd say on the weekday. And we're not even talking a massive one. We're still on the outskirts, really, of Moscow. We're not talking, Christ the Savior Cathedral in the middle of Moscow, right?
No, it's a new church, too. It's actually it's only been active for under 10 years, I believe.
Yeah, but even there, they've got service every morning, every evening, and then, of course, on Sunday, you've got multiple services and all that. So it's definitely very much a very communal thing. Like it's a big, like it is very much tight knit. There's very much a lot of people's community there. A lot of people spend a lot of time donating their time to help, garden in the garden, upkeep, everything. It is very much, and we've had like most of our community here, most of our friends and all people here have been people we've met through that. Our children's basically adopted Russian grandmother we've met through there. It's just a lot of people have been very, very, very supportive.
Exactly.
On that, so.
Yeah, and it's like Andrew said, it's very liturgical. Participation, like how you participate in the service, is different than it would be, for example, in a Baptist or Presbyterian church. You participate. It may not or if you're Baptist or Presbyterian, you come into the church and you look for the first time, you may not think people are participating because they're not singing or whatever for every single song, but you are participating. It's just a different approach to participation. That's a long conversation, but there's a lot of it's a different approach to participation, a different theology, a different view of worship. And I think it's more biblical, and so. But
it is if you come from a Protestant background, you got to get used to a lot of standing. Because
get used to a lot of standing.
Especially here in Russia. I've heard claims that there's some Orthodox churches in America that have introduced pews, but here in Russia they go the old traditional style. You stand the whole time, and it'll be 2.5 hours. And so with the little kids, the way we end up having to do it, we have to cheat. We show up.
Partway through.
We show up with about 45 minutes to an hour to go, because that's about all we're doing with that.
Because that's when the sacraments are given, and so the kids can go every single time. Adults don't tend to go every single time because it's more of a process before you go, and but it's important to make sure they go as much as possible, and so we try to get there a little bit before the sacraments, and then we stay for the rest of the service.
And they have the
but they just can't stay for longer. The kids just wiggle too much. So if we were to come at the beginning of the service, we'd miss the sacraments, and the sacraments are the most important part. So it's kind of like, it's just a hard place to be. So
it's very much a community center. The priests and all that, very, very involved. They knew who we were very early on, so it's like So anyway, no staying anonymous. They knew who we were right away. But yes, somebody in here was asking about subtitles, but I see someone else is helping me out, pointing out they'll pop up after it stops being live streamed. So you should be able to get the subtitles after.
Yeah.
Here during the live stream, it won't translate over into Russian here. I used to live in Rock Hill. Now I'm in Russia. Wow. What are the chances on that?
Wow, that's really cool.
But Rock Hill's a weird place. I meet a lot of people who've been through Rock Hill. Well, there's probably also a lot of Rock Hills because of that name.
Yeah, sure.
It was Rock Hill, South Carolina. But who knows? It might be the same one. But it's one of those weird places where it's like I've still bumped into a lot of people who've been there. It's like going into Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Everyone knows someone from Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Everyone. It's weird.
Have you been to Atradnaya? I have. I'm trying to think. I need to remind myself on the map. I'm trying to think. Why was I there? I think I might have actually had some work down there because I go all over with the English lessons. Because the company I work with, I teach English like at other companies. It'll be like business English, stuff like that. I think I had a lesson or two that actually took me through there. Or I needed to like go through there, like hop a bus right there, or hop. I'll check later. Yeah, I know I've been down there a few times. Yep, I definitely have. Do more people go to church there than in the USA?
Well, that's a hard question.
That's an interesting question. That depends on whom you ask. If you ask a priest, it's going to be this sort of no, because they tend to be pessimistic for whatever reason, and so it's kind of comparing apples to oranges. I won't lie. It's hard to describe because the service, if it lasts 3 hours long, whereas you go to the US, right? I go to a service on a Sunday morning, it can be in and out in an hour. You go in, have a 20 minutes of praise music, a quick 15, 20-minute lesson, a few more minutes of praise music, and you're done, right? This is, growing up my whole life in the Protestant world, you could be in and out in an hour. In an Orthodox service, it might go 3 hours. There's a lot of people that just aren't going to do that, right? We don't do the full time there. So you'll hear the numbers and there'll be, a similar percentage of people on a Sunday or like Christmas or something, right? Having gone to liturgy as in the US or something. But I'm always sitting here kind of going, that doesn't quite compare it, right? Because I remember asking a friend, just like, so where do you get those numbers? It's like, well, we'll be counting. I have somebody who's like an alternative, like altar server, who's a good friend. He's like, well, like we count at the communion, how many people get communion. I'm like, yeah, but any given day, like a fourth of the people might actually be taking it if you watch how many people actually go through the line. So that's way undercounting if you're only counting the number of people who take communion. And then he'll say, well, if there's a big service like Christmas or something, a lot of times, like with our church, right, they'll have like police outside kind of doing like a crosswalk kind of duty because people will be crossing all. They're saying they'll normally like pop in and do a head count at some point. I'm like, yeah, that's not very exact. And there's a constant line of people coming in, stay for 45 minutes, an hour, and then off.
Or even 10 minutes.
Or, then off to see family for their Christmas dinner or whatever, And so like with our church, it will be on a big feast day or something. It can be so packed you can barely move.
Theophany was insane.
Like Theophany or something, right? Can be absolutely packed. So I will say, for a church that's just the neighborhood church, I have never seen anything like it in the US in terms of how packed it'll be on certain feast days. But then you'll have a certain Sunday where there's not that many people there. It's kind of like, it's not so much the ups. It's like, since there's the year-round liturgical calendar, it's kind of hard to get a hold on that because once again, it's apples to oranges because there'll be more certain Sundays are super important where everyone and their mother is there. And then other days where it's kind of like, there's not as much going on. So for a few weeks it'll be down, and then for this next month it'll be packed. And then when you go there, like the head count they'll give, I think personally undercounts it by like a half because people are constant. There's just a constant flow in and out. So if it's a big like Easter, just not everyone can fit in there. So you got a constant flow of people go in, push their way in, hang out for a few minutes till they get claustrophobic and then they leave. You can't really just do a static head count and say, like going to a service where, with a Protestant service, right, the big thing is the sermon. So you kind of count maybe at the high point of the sermon how many people are in there. There's less of this in and out flow. It's just, you're there for the sermon. That's what you're there for. If you show up and it started, you don't go in, Whereas with the Orthodox service, it's like this constant flow in and out because it can be 3 hours long, come in, stay for an hour, go out. And so I would say personally, when people tell me, oh, the numbers seem, comparable, I personally think it way undercounts. When I hear people say how they count their numbers, even just our local church, like it can be absolutely insane. I've seen times that there are people lined out to the street because it's too packed inside in this giant line, just to try and get to some standing room in there. So yeah. How do I like public transportation in Moscow? What things do you find most fascinating? Public transportation in Moscow is amazing.
Oh, yes.
Never been in a city in the U.S. that compares. Like, the U.S. does really well on highway infrastructure for cars compared to a lot of other places I visit outside the U.S., but public transport, oh my goodness, not a place in the U.S. that I know of compares. Moscow's public transport is utterly insane how well it works. Let me see. I think I might have missed a few questions in here, so I'm going to skim through really quickly, and then we might have to go ahead and get off because it's been a while.
Before we get up, there are a few questions that haven't been asked in the chat that were asked underneath our post that I want to make sure we address, because people specifically asked that a while ago, and it'd be good to answer those.
What is religious freedom like there? Is it legal to hand out religious literature? That's an interesting question, actually, on that one. So you can kind of go from two different angles on this. There is a law on the books about proselytization that I've done some reading on, that I want to do more reading on before I give some sort of, like, I'm kind of wanting to do a video about it at some point. So I might do kind of a ditch on this question and say kind of TBD, because I do actually want to do a video on it. I would say there is some stuff on the books that might make some of the sort of traditional American style missionary work more challenging if you're coming and trying to hand out tracts and stuff like that. So that is true. I would also point out at the same time, I've heard people tell me with all this amount of authority that it's like there's no religious freedom and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous, right? You know, when we were here 5 or 6 years ago, we went to a Protestant church. We looked at different ones when we were here and stuff like that. It's like, no. You know, I've heard sermons that weren't particularly glowing about the government even. It's not like it was particularly problematic, I guess. I think it's more... I think it could be thought of more in terms of there's a move towards having a more self-consciously Orthodox culture. So yes, you can kind of worship however you want, and I don't get the impression that anyone's going to judge you for it or whatever. You know, back when I was still fully Protestant, not even thinking about Orthodoxy, I talked with plenty of people about religion. I tried to convince people to, you know, stop being an atheist and become a Christian, all that kind of stuff. I never had this impression like anyone was going to get bent out of shape or the police would care. Never any of that vibe. Now, at the same time, though, there was a recent item in the local news where they were giving the go-ahead to build a Indian Hindu temple, because there's a large Indian population in this town. It's actually just outside the Moscow city limits. And there was a lot of pushback from it. Now, on the one hand, they went and got the permit, and the government was perfectly fine with it. So it's not like there's this repressive, okay, you know, you got to have X, Y, and Z on the religion. But at the same time, there's a slightly more self-consciously Orthodox culture. So even this law that I'd like to probably discuss in another video, I think there was kind of an Orthodox element to it, kind of against this sort of proselytizing, again, you know, people away from Orthodoxy. There is a bit more of a self-consciously Orthodox culture now. And so I noticed, like, for example, with this temple being built, there was a lot of pushback in local social media because people weren't really having any issue with the idea of people being Hindu in Moscow. It was just the idea of saying, but this is Moscow. It's the capital. should there be a Hindu temple built right here? Go do it in your house or whatever. Do it somewhere else. But should that be here?
Yeah.
And so I would say no. Like, you're not going to have any issue if you come here and want to worship. Be a follower of any normal religion. Maybe not Jehovah's Witness. I think they were considered kind of more an extremist organization now. But any mainline organization, you're not going to have any issues as far as your worship, anything like that.
Yeah.
It's nothing like how it's portrayed. I can say that with absolute 100% certainty. But at the same time, it's not quite. There is more social weight to there being a culture of orthodoxy, I would say, behind it. And so, yes, like with that law and all, there is some stuff that does complicate it. I'd say it especially complicates if you wanted to come here as some sort of missionary and have foreign funding.
Right.
Their version, they have basically, as far as I remember on the laws and all, there's stuff that's kind of similar to what the U.S. has. So you're talking a very strong double standard here. This sort of the Pharaoh Act that you have to disclose if you're getting money from foreign entities and stuff like that. Here in Russia, because of color revolutions and things like that in countries where the U.S. has supported non-governmental organizations or even used missionaries to kind of help promote protests and things like that have been in the U.S.'s favor, Russia has laws that make it complicated to try and get foreign funding from entities that are foreign governments, religious organizations, just as the U.S. does. You have to point out the double standard if you complain about it too much. And so it does make it more complicated for some of that kind of traditional missionary stuff, Yes, I was in the USA in 2008 for joint exercises with NATO warships in Norfolk, Virginia. We were on the beach and were very surprised that there were unofficial zones for blacks and whites. Since we've got a lot of American viewers and all in here, I don't need to probably step into the minefield of all this. I will say, yes, there's just racial tensions in the U.S. can be very, very, very high. So, yeah, there are places and all to where I think my hot take on this, I think all the rather woke stuff about this obsession with culture, with structural racism and stuff like that, I think that's overblown. But I do think there's a lot of racial tensions that I think ironically have become a lot worse with all the anti-racism stuff in the last few years, actually kind of making it worse. So yes, there are places you don't want to go if you're a certain color because of the ramping up of tensions that have happened and stuff like that. That does exist. And it is nice here and especially big cities like Moscow and all, that's not an issue, right?
No.
Yes, sure, Lubertsy might have a higher crime rate, but it's not like I worry that if I just show my face there or something, it's going to be a problem.
No. Real quick, let me pull up 1 second.
Oh yeah, let's pull up the last couple of questions that were on the pre-written because we've been going with the live questions, and then we probably needed.
And some of the live questions have covered the same ground. And so, we won't cover those, but there were a few questions that I don't think have been covered that would be good to.
And if any of these, hopefully, if there's any of these we missed, we might be able to roll them over into a future one. I think I got most of them. If there's anyone out there whose question I missed, I'm really sorry. I haven't been trying to miss any.
We apologize. Thank you all so much for, spending the
evening with us and providing the questions. I was worried there weren't going to be questions, and so I wouldn't have anything to talk about. And no one wants me going just off the cuff and just going off script. It can get into the weeds and very rambly.
Someone said, any tips on finding family-sized apartments or homes? Did we really cover that?
We didn't really.
No.
Yeah, so slightly bigger apartments, more like the ones we're doing, where it's like 2 bedroom, really more like the third room could be a living room or another bedroom, like the one we're getting right now. It's basically a 3-bedroom apartment, right? I've been tied up more with work the last few days, and so you've been kind of doing that more. So I will leave that one to you.
So basically, 4-room apartments or 3-bedroom apartments. To clarify for non-American viewers, in America we go by bedrooms. We would say a 3-bedroom apartment would then be a 4-room apartment. So that just to clarify any confusion. So I'm going to go by the Russian way of just by how many rooms it has. So a 4-room apartment, from my experience, they tend to be quite expensive and on the more rare side. You can definitely find them, but they're pretty expensive. Whereas 3-room apartments, at least in our region, a lot more available, and you can make them work, especially if you have little kids, because
Well, because it's still kind of like having 3 bedrooms.
It's
like
like
the one we're
bedrooms.
looking at is basically laid out like just it's a kitchen with 3 rooms. They're all like basically 3 bedrooms.
But you could make each of them work as a bedroom, and so, so there's not really. So my recommendation is there's actually quite a few different websites you can go on, but one that's very famous is Sion. If someone in the chat could write down how that's written in Russian for any of our American viewers or who might be interested in looking at that'd be great. But Sion is a good one to look at. I've also looked at Avito is another one to look at. I think I've had the most success with Sion. But there are other ones. Like I now have found out about Yandex Realty and quite a few other things as well. So, you're not limited on websites you can go to.
I will also throw out there for people who move here and all, it can be daunting a little bit because a decent number of places will put in there like only for Russians or something like that.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them don't mean it. What it means is Russia is trying to it has a lot of immigrants who come in. And it's especially Moscow's a big immigrant hub, right? If you're, I grew up in the South where we have, a lot of immigrants from the South, from Mexico, Central America, and all that. A lot of times what they're getting at is they're trying to find a way to make sure you're legal, like your documents are legal, all that kind of stuff. So I think one of the ones we've rented last time we were here, something, whatever, might have said it was like Russians only, but you kind of reach out and they're like, well, we're Americans. Like, okay, what's your status? And you're like, well, we're here legally. We have all the documents. Everything's in line. It's like, okay, because no one wants to have someone show up and they're like, okay, we'll rent you the apartment. And then and then there's some issue because they're not here legally. And then, so that's just a word to the wise thing on that. If you come over and you're looking at it, you're like, oh my goodness, everywhere I look at, ask if I'm Russian, and I'm not. I just came here from America or something like that. Sometimes that's more code for I'm just trying to filter out and make sure you're on the up and up, and you're not some sort of illegal immigrant. You came here the right way. You're trustworthy. You got a job. And so there's been times like that where it's been like not looking for Russian only, and you kind of reach out and they're like, okay, fine, actually. And
the other thing is, this is, I think, a mistake that's very easy to make. Do not lead with registration. Do not start the conversation by saying, I am a foreigner who needs registration, because a lot of people will shut you down immediately. Instead,
because they get scared because they go, oh, that sounds like that's going to be a big headache. Yeah. But if you lead with, okay, hey, let's come look at the apartment, and you're like, by the way, we just need you to register us there. You can do it the same amount of time as the lease. A lot of times then there'll be more of a reaction of, oh, I guess that's not that big a deal. I guess it's not worth changing.
Also, they've gotten to see your face. They're a little more invested. But even more down to brass tacks, you start with asking, is the apartment available? You start with that question. Yeah. Then you kind of go.
But sometimes the websites will still have a decent amount of stuff that's already been rented out.
And you kind of follow their lead. So you've answered their questions. Do we need to move to the other room?
No, it's still got some time.
You follow their lead, you answer their questions. And I'm not saying you should lie. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you don't start with the scariest information.
Yeah, you don't sit here and say, I'm a foreigner, register me, because they're going to immediately have the panic attack.
Don't start with that. You start with, okay, is the apartment available? Okay, it's available. They'll usually ask, like, who are you? So then start with the fact that you are a semejная para. You are a family pair. You are a married couple with children.
Yeah, if you're a family, lead with that, because that's
they like that.
Because a lot of people are sitting here thinking it's like they're trying to avoid one of two things: any legal issues with someone who's here illegally, and then that might cause a problem because they then need you to register them, but they're actually not here legally, which means they don't want to get caught in the midst of something legal. Or are you going to come in and have a bunch of parties and tear the place up? So if you just lead off with if you're a family coming over, lead off with we are семейная пара, like family pairing with children. I think in some ways you almost get dibs sometimes.
Yeah, I think.
As in, people will kind of go, okay, fine. It's my social duty to try and help out.
To at least consider you, and then if they like that, if they're good with that, then they'll often ask. Usually, the next question is, "Are you Russian?" And
that's where you roll with.
That's where you can either say you're American. You should say you're American, but if you're white.
No, you go with and you just like, I'm American. If you speak Russian, anything that makes you act or seem Russian, go with that. As in, like, if you've learned any Russian, like, oh yeah, but I speak some Russian, whatever, go with it, right? Yeah. It's just, you want to lean on just kind of this, yes, we can function. We'll get you the rent on time. Lean on anything that's sort of, yes, I work here, I work in this big company, whatever, It
makes you seem as Slavic as possible, basically.
Well, yeah, it's not even racial. It's more just, it's making sure that you seem like you're you fit in, basically. Like you're someone who's going to fit in.
That's what I mean.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, not really Slavic, more like you would fit in Russia. That's more what I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
because it's like, there's lots of different nationalities here. It's more like, would you fit in? Would you stand out? Would you be a problem? That's more what I mean.
Yeah, it's more this kind of like, that's what I would say. It's more this kind of,
Are you going to cause problems? And you're trying to ease them into realizing you're not going to cause problems. You're going to be a good tenant. You're someone they should rent to. And then the conversation about registration might come up naturally. Or they may want to show you the apartment first, and you can bring it up during the viewing. That type of thing.
Well, I've had times where it's like, Russian only, and you're like, well, where are you from? It's like, well, we're Americans. It's kind of almost the reaction. It's kind of like, well, there's no way with sanctions they didn't get here without their documents being correct and all that. I think there's almost kind of this like, okay, they didn't get here illegally from the United States. Okay. Yeah. And then they ask more questions like, okay, got a job, a family, got a job. Okay, fine. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
It'll work.
Exactly.
And so, that's more the concern.
Yeah. So that's my insider trick. It's worked a lot. So it's worked. So that's how I recommend you approach it.
Thank you for your reply. I would like to know: have you ever had to deal with the Russian police? Only in passing, like
we did have the.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Like in Odessa, so in Ukraine, I was much more worried about them, just like the corruption stuff and all that, and it just was never a good time. Here in Russia, I'm not as nervous about it. They can kind of be grumpy and forceful, sort of like American police officers are typically too. It's not that they don't seem typically very different. We had our local uchastkovy, whatever, it's beat officer, whatever. The police officer, there's kind of like there'll be a police officer who's sort of in charge of a certain area. So like our little quadrant area here came by our apartment one night because since we're immigrants and registered here, they will make they do make a check at some point if you move to the area to make sure you actually live there and you're the person who actually is registered there. So he did show up at our door, and he was running late, so it was like 9:00 at night. So our kid freaked out. But when he came to the door, though, he was just super nice. Yeah. And then it was just like checking the documents, all that. Gave a bunch of advice, and it's like, okay, look at my face, remember me. I'm the guy from around here. If anyone else strange comes to your door or anything like that, don't answer him. If you have any problems, here's my number. Like super
positive
friendly,
experience.
All that stuff. All right. I remember, when I was here last time on a trip, we had traffic cop pulls over, pull somebody over, pulled the van over the weird taxi we were in or something. And, it's like it doesn't hit me as particularly different from like U.S. police or something like that. It's been mostly fine.
Yeah.
I will say, since Moscow is trying to crack down on illegal immigration issues and all that, and Moscow's a big hub for everyone from everywhere, just common sense, try not to stand out more than you can.
Exactly.
So like there was, I've had American friends and all visit, and people, acquaintances and all that, and it's kind of like you'll be walking out and about, and I'm kind of elbowing. It's like, stop speaking loudly in English as we're walking through the metro past the police or something. Don't, it's like, don't stand out. It's not like they're going to give you a special problem, but they can still, like, if you're a foreigner, they can still kind of stop you and be like, okay, just checking your documents to make sure you're legal. You whip out your passport, show it to them. They don't have an issue. They're just like, okay, fine.
If your documents are fine,
if your documents are fine, you're fine. Yeah. But I've never I've known people to get stopped, but I've never gotten stopped because I just don't loudly speak English as I go around, and no one has a reason to stop you. It's just like, and even if they did, it wouldn't be a problem. But
no.
So anyway,
it's just an extra stressor to get stopped by somebody, so it's always better to avoid it.
Yeah.
But, another
coming
question
in from the UK, having my tea, fish, chips, and garden peas. That sounds amazing.
That sounds really good.
I like fish and chips.
That sounds really, really good. Hello, I wonder, do you regret the decision of moving away from home now as time went by? Also, what do your parents/friends think about you living in Russia? We kind of covered the second part, but not really the first part.
Regret the decision? No. It has, it's been challenging in the sense of when you first arrive, everything's new enough. You go through a little period of not being homesick. And so I would say we hit, 4 months in, hit kind of a darker period of feeling a lot more homesick and just kind of like...
It was harder at that point.
Yeah, I won't lie. And then after that, it's kind of hit the point of being more like the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
I think for you, in some ways, you're more comfortable here than when we were at in Charlotte. In terms of you're more independent.
I'm more independent, yeah.
Because she you couldn't drive because your eyesight has kind of she has very limited you can get around fine in life, but limited peripheral, so you couldn't drive.
I guess you could say I'm partially blind. I guess I don't know. It's I don't have complete vision.
And so but here in Moscow, it's oh yeah, you're
I function very well. I can do almost anything anyone else can do. The only thing I can't do is drive. Yeah,
but it's 27-year-old woman, you can actually go to the store on your own. You don't need your husband to take you.
If you meet me in person, you'd never know. It doesn't. I can do anything anyone else can do, but yeah.
But what I was getting at with Russia here is just you don't rely on me, because in the States it was you use a car for everything. So if I'm gone all day out of town, or if I have to go out of town for work and I don't get back till 9:00 at night, she can't go anywhere because I have to literally take, and if we go anywhere, it's the whole family, because if we both go, no one's watching the kids. So here, I can come home and she can be like, I want to go to the Bolshoi Theater, whatever. I can go, she can just, hop on the nearest bus, ride it to the nearest metro, ride it down.
Yep.
Not having a driver's license is just not a limiting factor with such good public transport and all that.
Yeah, so I have a lot more freedom here, which is really nice. And so, so that way it's more comfortable for me. But no, we don't regret the decision. It's not without its challenges, like any decision you make. There's always going to be positives and negatives, but it was a good decision, and we're glad we did it. So.
As far as morale, mine's gotten a lot better over time as I've kind of just learned our area and stuff. I like freedom of movement. I like to explore. So, back when we were in the States, I just would drive all the small roads in the area where we live. I just knew where everything was because I just like to explore.
Yeah.
Well, here it's kind of at first I felt like I don't know where anything is. And now it's kind of it's gotten a lot better as I've learned the bus system better. Take a big, leave early before the kids are up, go to the big, huge park and explore here, there, and everywhere. And just to kind of, I do a lot more of that. And so it's replaced that niche where when I first got here without a car, I was kind of like, oh man. And so things like that, just learning the area.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Stuff like that's really helped. And like I said, we really love the area that we're in. It's, the north part of Moscow. We really, really love it. It's, I know there's lots of beautiful areas in Moscow, but I would really love our specific region. So,
yeah.
Next question. We kind of did any part of that did we not cover?
Does your family have a stable income? Is it enough for a comfortable life in Moscow? If so, is this a job for a Russian company or a remote job for a Western company? Everything I've been working has been here in Russia, especially now with sanctions. It would be very difficult. I don't think it's necessarily impossible. It would be very difficult to be doing some sort of job with like a U.S. job remotely. I think you'd have to have some sort of system set up where you're having like money go to a bank account in Georgia and then with another bank account to try and get it there or something like that. Well, that flows into the next question. So yes, the English teaching's gone well, and as someone pointed out, that is a kind of common job. There are a lot of jobs here, but if you come over and your Russian's not fairly good, the English teaching is kind of just a place where a lot of people fall because there's a lot of people who want to learn English. And if you're a native speaker and you have any talent at teaching, it's just so easy to fall into. It's just convenience. It's not really even bad. Like it's your only option. It's just a very convenient option.
Yeah, it's a convenient, good option.
So like, I would say, I think I've seen a lot of people. I know people, for example, I know someone who works in a big IT company here, right? Works as a translator. He came over. I don't think he spoke any Russian when he got here, taught English for a few years, just worked on his Russian while he did that till he had a high level, and then got a job in translating. So he's not teaching any English. He's working for a big company. Great job. I've known multiple people that's just they come over, they teach the English at first, work on their Russian, and then they break into whatever else. Because if you speak the Russian well enough to get along and you're a native speaker of English, there's a lot of international companies where it's just a huge plus on your resume, plus whatever experience you had before you came here, to be a native speaker of English. And so, you can have a lot of job opportunities. Just at first, it can seem a little bit like you kind of have to spend that time maybe teaching English while you learn the Russian or something. And then wondering was the best way to transfer your money to Russia. Oh boy, that can be, that's all kind of complicated. I've known some people who have managed to do it through like cryptocurrency exchanges, all that. We haven't done it that way. That can be complicated, but I know it's doable. So that is one option. Another option, like I've known of people to do this. We once again don't do this, where it's like they have friends who live in Russia or got family who live here. They've got it on both sides, where it's like they'll pay them American money to their friends' Russian American account over there. And so there'll be people where like they've got family in Russia and the US, and they'll basically just pay them American money for what their account in America, and then they give them Russian money for the Russian account. So, I've seen some of that kind of stuff. You can also do it. I think some people have done where they'll take a trip to somewhere like Georgia. This is, once again, I haven't done it this way either. People will take like a trip to Georgia, set up, as far as I understand this, once again, this is kind of where I want to do a little bit more digging. I'm kind of trying, I think I'm going to try and make it work, take a trip and see if I can make it work. They'll open up maybe like 2 bank accounts in Georgia on a trip, one that's connected to SWIFT. And so they can make a transfer from the US to this Georgian bank account. And then maybe there might need to be another Georgian bank account in the mix, where they'll then transfer that money from this Western connected bank that's in Georgia over to just a Georgian account. And then if that bank will need to be one that has connection to a mainline Russian bank like VTB or something. So basically you transfer it from an account in the US to an account in Georgia, and then you transfer it to another bank in Georgia that has connections with Russia. And then they transfer it to an account, and you have a VTB account in Russia or something like that. I've heard of people doing that, and I've heard that can work pretty well. You can also get around it by doing like basically the equivalent of sort of like Western Union. It doesn't work directly in Russia, but you can like Western Union it to Kazakhstan and then basically have someone basically do the equivalent of like some sort of like another Western Union, but using a Russian company to send it from Kazakhstan to Russia.
Exactly.
We've actually done that a few times when we've needed to bring over some money from the U.S. to here. There are fees and all that do eat you up a little bit, but it works pretty well.
It works. It's reliable and it's fast.
Yeah.
And it's safe.
Yes. Any other? I think
those are the main ones. If we missed your question, I'm very, very sorry. We'll probably do another live stream at some point, and please save the question for when we do that.
We should see Bolshoi Theater, Swan Lake. We do need to see. We have not actually seen a show.
We really.
Once again, the children make everything complicated. There's our ratio of outdoor to like show related things is very skewed towards outdoor, because outdoor you can take the children to anything, but
outdoor you can take the kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys so much. We did not expect this many questions. We didn't expect this many people, and so thank you for all the loving, kind comments and for all the sweet questions. And so we really appreciate it.
And I'm gonna try that soup.
Yeah, we need to try to make that
actually.
So, yes. You need to try that one soup, and then I need to make the other cabbage.
You need to make the cabbage soup, and I need to do the one that's the kvass and kefir, and kefir. Yeah, that sounds good.
So,
all right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you guys. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Bye. Okay.